Chapter 349. Hearing the woman's aggressive words, Xiao Yunju hid behind Yunjian in fear. He hid behind Yunjian and only stuck his head out. After the woman finished speaking, Xiao Yunju suddenly stuck his head out and shouted stubbornly, "I didn't. Wang Ba snatched the candy that Ce Gij gave me first. I didn't want to give it to him, so he pushed me. That's why I pushed him back." Wang Ba was the chubby boy in the palm of Jin Mei's hand. Yunjian turned to look at Wang Ba. His chubby body was trembling as he raised his head to look at Xiao Yunju. He seemed to be full of vigor. Looking at Xiao Yunju, he seemed to be cowering. It wasn't hard to tell that before school ended, he had already been taught a lesson by his form teacher, Teacher Lu. "You're so young, but you've already learned how to lie. Haha, my son snatched your candy? Do you think the candy in your hand is made of gold? Will it make you immortal or something? My son doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. Why would he want that lousy candy in your brother's hand?" Wang Ba's mother roared at Xiao Yunju. Teacher Lu was standing between Yunjian, Xiao Yunju, and Wang Ba's mother. She frowned, but her expression was ugly. Teacher Lu sided with Wang Ba. She frowned at Yunjian and said, "There's no such thing. I've already asked the students in class. They all said that your brother bullied Wang Ba. I stopped you today because I want you to discipline your brother. Also, I want you to apologize to Wang Ba." "Is it just an apology?" Wang Ba's mother looked up at Yunjian haughtily with a contemptuous gaze. Everything happened so quickly that no one could react. I didn't. It was Wang Ba who pushed me first." Xiao Yunju was so anxious that he was about to cry. He leaned against Yunjian, grabbed Yunjian's hand and shook it. "Big sister, I didn't push him for no reason." Xiao Yunju's black eyes blinked, and tears almost fell from his eyes. Yunjian was silent for a while. She didn't say anything. She just reached out her hand and gently stroked her brother's hair. Io, what kind of person was this? Sure enough, a poor child from a poor family was different. You have no manners at all. Wang Ba's mother stared at Xiao Yunju and Yunjian. After confirming that they were dressed plainly and looked like children from a poor family, she spoke even more fiercely. "Yunju, aren't you going to apologize? If you've done something wrong, you have to apologize." Teacher Lu treated Yunju with her usual attitude as a teacher. Many teachers in the school would treat students with a one-sided view. Sometimes, it would even cause serious psychological trauma to the children. Teacher Lu was such a person. Just as Wang Ba was looking at Yunju smugly, his mother and Miss Lu were standing on his side aggressively. Yunju's expression changed. Yunjian lowered her eyes. Suddenly she raised her voice. "Enough." Teacher Lu, Wang Ba's mother, and even a group of passing parents were shocked by Yunjian's shout. Yunjian pulled Xiao Yunju. She stood in front of Wang Ba's mother and Teacher Lu without showing any signs of weakness. "My brother will admit what he did, but he won't admit what he didn't do." Yunjian then turned to look at Wang Ba and said fiercely, "Little brat, you know very well whether you're lying or not. If I find out that you're slandering my brother, I'll tear your mouth apart." Chapter 350. Perhaps it was because he had been spoiled since he was young. Wang Ba did not back down out of fear. Instead, he stood up like his mother and raised his voice to Yunjian. "I'm not spouting nonsense. Humph, it was Yunju who pushed me. He's crazy." As he spoke, he pointed his chubby finger at Yunju and continued to scold and frame him. "I also heard that Yunju is a fatherless brat. I actually brought candy today. After he pushed me, he snatched my candy away. Slap." Yunjian stepped forward. She did not care that Wang Ba was a primary school student. She raised her hand and gave Wang Ba a hard slap. The words fatherless pierced Xiao Yunju's heart. Xiao Yunju's eyes, which had been stubbornly holding back tears, instantly turned red. In her previous life, when Yunjian found Xiao Yunju, their parents were already dead. Xiao Yunju was an orphan at that time and was bullied. Therefore, Xiao Yunju's lack of parents had always been a scar on his heart. No matter who the person was, even if he was only 8 or 9 years old, Yunjian would not allow him to touch Xiao Yunju's scar. It hurts. Mommy, it hurts. Whoa. After being slapped by Yunjian, Wang Ba's chubby body fell to the ground with a thud. He instantly howled in pain. "Oh, my bow, what's wrong with you?" Wang Ba's mother hurriedly helped her son up in fear. After Wang Ba's mother helped him up, she glared at Yin Jian fiercely. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws at Yin Jian. "You little b***tch. How dare you hit my son? Do you know how precious my son is? My son is nothing compared to that bastard brother of yours. You." With that, Wang Ba's mother was about to pounce on Yin Jian. Yin Jian grabbed Xiao Yunju and dodged to the side. Wang Ba's mother jumped forward, but because she missed Yin Jian, she fell to the ground like a frog. "Wang Ba's mother, are you okay?" Teacher Lu, who was comforting Wang Ba a moment ago, ran over to comfort Wang Ba's mother. Wang Ba's father was a board member of the school. Not long ago, he had donated a batch of books to the school. At that time, the principal had specially instructed her to take good care of Wang Ba. If something were to happen to Wang Ba in school, wouldn't that be terrible? "Ba, damn girl, are you courting death?" After Wang Ba's mother was helped up by Teacher Lu, she was in a sorry state. She was instantly enraged and glared at Yun Jian, as if she wanted to swallow Yun Jian whole. Surveillance. When Yun Jian saw that Wang Ba's mother had stopped pouncing on her, she looked at Teacher Lu and Wang Ba's mother and sneered. What? Wang Ba's mother and Teacher Lu did not react in time. "Check the surveillance, and you will know if your son provoked my brother first, or if my brother bullied your son for no reason." Yun Jian looked fearlessly at Wang Ba's mother, who was in a sorry state. She paused and continued. "Don't blame me for not reminding you. If your son framed my brother first, I will definitely kill all of you." Yun Jian's gaze turned menacing at once, sending chills down the spines of those who were present. There were not many surveillance cameras in this era, especially some people who did not even know what surveillance cameras were. However, Wuxia Elementary School's equipment was more advanced. Therefore, every classroom was equipped with a surveillance camera. Chapter 351. Once she heard that they were going to check the surveillance cameras, Wang Ba's mother's slender figure shuddered. To be honest, she did not know if it was her son or Xiao Yunju who made the first move. She had rushed to Miss Lu to ask Yunju to apologize to her son, after hearing her son's one-sided explanation, just as she arrived at school. Actually, Miss Lu had already reprimanded Xiao Yunju in front of the whole class about Xiao Yunju and Wang Ba's incident. She did not expect him to be so spirited, telling his mother directly after school and asking her to stand up for him. It was just that everyone had forgotten that there were surveillance cameras in the classroom. To be honest, in a school classroom, who would remember if there were any surveillance cameras? Besides, this was not an era where surveillance cameras were everywhere. Normal families would not even install surveillance cameras. Primary schools were different. The children were still young and mischievous. Moreover, the teachers could not keep an eye on their classmates all the time, so they could only install surveillance cameras in each classroom. Wuxia Elementary School was the best primary school in Longmen City, so they could afford to install surveillance cameras. Therefore, every corner of the school was monitored by surveillance cameras. However, the internet was not yet popular in 1998. Even a mobile phone was still a luxury item. Therefore, many people, including the teachers, had completely forgotten about the fact that there were surveillance cameras in the school. Miss Lu snapped out of it at once. She believed that Wang Ba was not lying. So when Yun Jian said that, she went with the flow. Check the surveillance cameras then. In any case, Wang Ba was definitely right. Miss Lu's confidence came from nowhere. When she agreed to Yun Jian's request, her tone was confident and carried an air of maturity that was rich in experience. Isn't this just two kids pushing each other? What's there to check? Besides, didn't all the classmates in the class testify that he pushed my son? How could he be wrong? Wang Ba's mother did not mind talking too much. She stood up and spoke while trembling. After saying that, she kept repeating, "Besides, isn't it just a piece of candy? My family drives cars, why would I care?" "So you're saying that you don't dare to check the surveillance?" Yin Jian sneered. She had already noticed Wang Ba's reaction. Wang Ba's cowering appearance was clearly an expression of a guilty conscience. Yunjian tugged at Xiao Yunju. She was here today to seek justice for Xiao Yunju. Oh, I get it now. You're afraid that people will find out that your son stole my brother's candy. So you don't dare to check the CCTV. Yunjian could tell from Wang Ba's mother's words and actions that this woman was very prideful. Therefore, her voice was very loud, so loud that people who were dozens of meters away could hear her clearly. When Wang Ba's mother saw that everyone was looking at her, she felt embarrassed on the spot. She looked at Yunjian and raised her head with an arrogant look. Who says I'm scared? Let's go. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and her lips curled into a cold smile. After a while, the few of them arrived at the school's surveillance room. The teacher who was in charge of the surveillance room looked at Yunjian and the others in confusion. Then he sat in front of the computer and looked at the surveillance footage for a long time. Finally, he found the footage of Xiao Yunju angrily pushing Wang Ba down. During this time, Wang Ba's hand was accidentally scratched by Xiao Yunju. When Wang Ba's mother saw this, she was instantly enraged. She pointed at Yunjian and continued to scold her. See, it's your brother who pushed my son. Yunjian ignored the few of them. She asked the teacher to move away and sat in front of the computer. She reached out her hand and quickly tapped on the keyboard under the shocked gaze of the few people. Then, a scene suddenly appeared on the computer screen. Wang Ba walked towards Xiao Yunju, who was sitting in his seat. He pointed at the lollipop in Xiao Yunju's hand and asked for it. Xiao Yunju shook his head. Wang Ba rushed forward and pushed Xiao Yunju fiercely. When Xiao Yunju steadied himself, Wang Ba reacted and angrily pushed back. He even accidentally scratched Wang Ba's hand. Chapter 352. Teacher Lu, who was standing beside Wang Ba's mother, turned pale as well. Just now, Miss Lu's expression was the same as how much she believed that Wang Ba and Yunju were at fault. Little brat, it looks like I'm going to tear your mouth apart. While everyone was dumbfounded watching the surveillance footage on the computer, Yunjian suddenly stood in front of Wang Ba, looking like she was going to tear him into pieces. Mom. I'm scared. Wang Ba was just a kid after all. He was scared by Yunjian, and his heart almost stopped beating. He screamed and jumped into his mother's arms. Actually, Yunjian was not going to tear his mouth apart. She just wanted to scare this kid who was full of nonsense. Her brother was not bullied. From the video, her brother was pushed and he fought back. Looking at the entire video, her brother had the upper hand. As for the students who lied to the teacher and said that Xiao Yunju was the one who started it, they were probably bought over by Wang Ba. This was not surprising. Most of the students in this school were educated by their parents to climb up the social ladder. The parents who tried their best to send their children to this school just wanted their children to make friends with rich and powerful families. Wang Ba's family seemed to be quite rich. It was not impossible for him to make some promises and get all the students to speak up for him. Wang Ba's mother, however, pulled her son into her arms. Her gaze on Yunjian turned menacing, as if she was going to devour Yunjian in the next second. So what if my son wants your brother's candy? You poor kids should feel lucky that my son wants candy. Wang Ba's mother looked at Yunjian with a righteous attitude. Wang Ba's mother did not know how to write the word repentance. The reason why she dared to yell at Yunjian and Xiao Yunju was because Yunjian and Xiao Yunju were not wearing expensive clothes. Usually, rich people like to dress their sons or daughters up well and wear branded clothes from head to toe, just like her son Wang Ba. However, looking at Yunjian and Xiao Yunju, their clothes were not bad, but overall they were very plain. There was not a single piece of branded clothing on them, especially when his son said that Yunju was a wild child without a father. Where could this kind of wild child's family go with money? Therefore, Wang Ba's mother did not intend to teach Yunjian a lesson from the very beginning. Apologize. Yunjian raised her hand and looked at the watch that she had just bought. She said to Wang Ba impatiently, "What?" Wang Ba's mother opened her mouth wide again on behalf of her son. She looked as if she had seen a new world. I'll give you two options. The first option is to ask your son to apologize to my brother immediately. Yunjian cast a sidelong glance at her, suddenly looking a little sinister. Teacher Lu was also shocked. Wang Ba's mother, who was beside her, was also affected. She swallowed her lips and pursed her lips that were as red as a chicken's butt. Then she said, "Secondly, I'll kill you." Yunjian suddenly reached out. She took out a butterfly knife from her pocket in front of everyone and threw it at Wang Ba's mother's head. She was so fast that no one could react in time. When they did, Wang Ba's mother's heart was in her mouth. The butterfly knife brushed past Wang Ba's mother's hair and even tore off a lot of her hair. In the end, it bounced off a metal box and landed in Yunjian's hand. Wang Ba's mother was completely terrified by the scene. Everyone present was dumbfounded when they saw Yunjian's move. Chapter 353. Yunjian's action almost scared everyone to death. However, what she said after that made everyone shudder. Was it a joke? Who would play a joke by throwing a butterfly knife at someone's head? However, Wang Ba, his mother, and Teacher Lu did not dare to make a sound. This was because they smelled a murderous aura from Yunjian. Moreover, after the butterfly knife was thrown, Yunjian was able to use the surrounding environment to bounce it back to her hand. Such a powerful skill could not be a coincidence. "So are you going to apologize now?" Yunjian tilted her head. She held Xiao Yunju's hand and stared at Wang Ba's mother lazily. The threat came out of her mouth naturally. Wang Ba's mother could not help but swallow her saliva. She held Wang Ba's hand and paused for a moment. In the end, due to fear, she pushed her son and quickly fell to the ground. Wang Ba's mother gave her son a shove and glanced at Yunjian fearfully, looking like she had yet to recover from her initial shock. "Ba, apologize." Wang Ba's mother was someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. She was scared out of her wits by Yunjian's butterfly knife. Although her son was important, her face and her son's dignity were definitely more important than her. Wang Ba was also scared out of his wits. After all, he was only a first grader. When Yunjian threatened him just now, Wang Ba was already scared out of his wits. So sorry." After being pushed out by his mother, Wang Ba's low voice came out of his mouth like a mosquito. "Xiaozhu, can you hear his voice?" Yunjian squatted down and looked at Xiao Yunju's pink face. She could not help but stroke his head and ask softly, "Sister, I can't hear him. He's speaking so softly." Xiao Yunju covered his ears with all his might. His pink face instantly became round, and he even made a face at Wang Ba. "Stupid Xiao Yunju, you." Wang Ba saw Xiao Yunju making a face at him, and immediately stood up. He clenched his fat fist and wanted to threaten Xiao Yunju, but was covered by Yunjian's words. "Did you hear that? My brother said he didn't hear what you said." Yunjian turned her head sideways and looked at Wang Ba from the corner of her eyes. She played with the butterfly knife in her hand and revealed an evil smile. Yunjian's actions made Wang Ba's mother and the others' hearts tremble. Wang Ba's mother in particular was already chilled to the bone when she saw Yunjian playing with the butterfly knife. Shuddering, she smacked her son's head. "Ba, louder. Say it." Wang Ba's mother was afraid that the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand would fly out of Yunjian's hand and fly towards her again. She was so scared that she quickly urged her son. It was the first time Wang Ba's mother had patted his head so hard. He felt so wrong that he was so scared that tears rolled down his face, and he started to stutter. Wang Ba looked at Xiao Yunju and shouted, Sorry." He had never been humiliated like this before. "If I find out that you bullied my brother again, you'll have to deal with it yourself." Yunjian sneered. She did not even look at Wang Ba. Instead, she held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked out of the surveillance room without looking back. Wang Ba's mother heaved a sigh of relief. She trembled as she pulled her son up. She did not even have time to greet Teacher Lu and ran towards the door. Of course, she was not satisfied. However, Wang Ba's mother knew that she was no match for Yunjian. Chapter 354. Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked out of the school. They passed by a large patch of flower beds and a rockery that Wenning Elementary School had just built. Wenning Elementary School was definitely the most scenic in Longmen City. It had to be said that Wuning Elementary School occupied a large area, and it was not too close to the school building from the school gate. There were many flower beds for people to admire as they walked. The school leaders had even built a rockery to enhance the school's scenic view. At this time, somewhere in the rockery, the fountain was still spraying water. The water splashed up and down, forming a round hollow circle, which looked particularly beautiful. Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand as they walked out, and soon arrived at the school gate. Suddenly, Yunjian caught sight of a snack shop near the school gate. She pressed her lips together and bent down to ask Xiao Yunju, "Xiaozhu, do you want to buy some snacks? Can I, Jie?" Xiao Yunju was delighted when he heard that Yunjian wanted to bring him to buy snacks. He stood up and looked up at Yunjian, blinking his eyes adorably. Of course. Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked to the snack shop. This was a small shop with old decorations. Most of the things sold inside were snacks that children liked to eat, such as spicy strips that cost a few cents a pack. The shopkeeper was a very pretty lady, who looked about 18 or 19 years old. She must be the shopkeeper's daughter. When the lady saw Yunjian walking over with Xiao Yunju's hand, she stood up quickly and greeted them. "Hello. Do you want to buy anything?" Since Yunjian and the rest had gone to the surveillance room, the students at the school gate had already been taken home by their parents when they left the school gate. Hence, the shop was empty, leaving only Yunjian and Xiao Yunju walking over. "Jie, I want spicy strips." Xiao Yunju grabbed Yunjian's hand and shook it excitedly when he saw the big bag of way-long spicy strips at the front. "No, spicy strips are junk food. Don't even think about it." Yunjian flicked Xiao Yunju's forehead and said softly with a smile, "Jie, why do you say the same thing as Gich?" Xiao Yunju pouted unhappily and looked away, blurting out. Yunjian was dumbfounded when she heard him. "See, said the same thing too? Then I'll buy 3 lollipops. One for Jie and one for me. This one is for Gich." Xiao Yunju quickly reached out and took 3 lollipops from the shelf. He held them in his hand and looked at Yunjian with his small eyes blinking. Yunjian really wanted to ask Xiao Yunju why he kept mentioning but she swallowed her words. Just as she walked out of the shop with Yunju after paying the bill, 3 menacing silhouettes approached them from the opposite side. They were Wang Ba's mother, and the others. As for the other person, he was a middle-aged man. He was tall and sturdy, standing at 1.9 meters tall. He was plump and strong, and the muscles on his arms could be seen through his clothes. This middle-aged man looked exactly like Wang Ba, so it wasn't hard to tell that they were related. Chapter 355. Yunjian felt goosebumps all over her body when she heard Wang Ba's mother speaking to the middle-aged man with her soft and coquettish voice. The middle-aged man sized up Yunjian with a sarcastic look. He even looked at her as if she was a beggar. "Are you the one who bullied my woman and my son?" The middle-aged man looked at Yunjian and sneered. Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand. She raised her head slightly and looked at the middle-aged man. She smiled but did not say anything. The middle-aged man was Wang Ba's father, Wang Wuguei. Wang Wuguei was an employee of a large corporation. He had been working there for a few years and had been promoted a few times. He felt that he was already a big boss. Therefore, he liked to observe people's clothes when he looked at them. He was not afraid when he saw that Yunjian was dressed plainly, and Xiao Yunju did not have a single branded item on him. "Heh!" Yunjian crossed her arms and pursed her lips. She smiled as if she was looking at a fool. The 3 of them were indeed a family. The first thing they did when they came up was to check out their clothes. Yunjian saw through their actions clearly. "What are you laughing at?" Wang Wuguei rolled up his sleeves and was about to walk towards Yunjian when he was stopped by Wang Ba's mother. "Hubby, you can't go. This girl is strange. She seems to know some martial arts." Wang Ba's mother stopped Wang Wuguei and stood beside Yunjian. Now that her husband was there, Wang Ba's mother did not seem to be afraid of Yunjian. Wang Ba's mother had also forgotten about what happened in the surveillance room. She came over and lifted her head to meet Yunjian's eyes, her gaze distant. Then, Wang Ba's mother suddenly pointed at a Volkswagen Santana car that was parked not far away, and showed it off to Yunjian. Hee hee, little girl. You won't give up until you see the coffin. Humph, do you see that? That's my car. Do you have a car at home? Hee hee. Young people nowadays like to act like they're rich and powerful, but they're actually very sloppy at home. This young person was the one that Wang Ba's mother used to describe Yunjian. Wang Ba's mother was not stupid. She did not want her husband to fight with Yunjian. She followed Yunjian here because she wanted to take revenge. She wanted to make fun of Yunjian. Wang Ba's mother thought that young people nowadays would act like they were rich if they were poor. To Wang Ba's mother, Yunjian was one of them. Wang Ba's mother's husband, Wang Wugui, actually had quite a high position in the company. After all, there were probably only a handful of people in the family who could afford to drive a car. Usually, Wang Wugui and his family would drive the Santana everywhere to show off. At the end of the day, their Volkswagen Santana was bought from New Cruise. Seeing that Yunjian did not reply, Wang Ba's mother thought that she was stunned after hearing that the Volkswagen Santana belonged to her family. Wang Ba's mother was even more proud of herself. She even boasted, "Heh, do you know the famous New Cruise? They're the best car marketing company. My family's car was bought from New Cruise." Chapter 356. Ever since the auto show, New Cruise's name had risen in the industry. Zhang Jifan had been so busy lately that he did not even have the time to hire helpers. Yun Jian was only in charge of the bigger matters, while Zhang Jifan was in charge of the smaller matters. Of course, she would make a trip to New Cruise during the weekend. However, Yun Jian was amused when she heard her company's name from Wang Ba's mother's mouth. It was her company. Now that someone had bought a car from her company, how could she show off in front of her? Oh, Yun Jian held back her laughter. It was the first time she was so interested to know what Wang Ba's mother's expression would be if she knew that her car was bought from her company. Have you heard of New Cruise or not? That's New Cruise. My family's car was bought there. But that's true. How would a child from a poor family like you have the chance to know about all these? Wang Ba's mother's tone softened as she spoke. She tilted her head slightly and looked at Yun Jian with an indescribable disdain. Sister, what's New Cruise? Can it be eaten? Xiao Yunju was indeed a child. He lifted his head and shook it, the lollipop still in his mouth. Upon hearing Xiao Yunju's words, Wang Ba's mother was even more certain that Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju were children from a poor family. Wang Ba's mother glared at Yun Jian and continued to attack her with what she thought was a satisfying way of venting her anger when she recalled how Yun Jian had humiliated her in the surveillance room. Yo, look, your brother doesn't even know what New Cruise is? Is it true that you don't know either? Haha, a child from a poor family. Just based on this, you can't compare to us. You're ignorant. Wang Ba's mother seemed to have seized the opportunity to insult Yun Jian. She shouted at the top of her lungs, as if she was afraid that the passers-by would not know what was going on. Just as Wang Ba's mother finished her sentence, the sound of an emergency brake came from the road. Vroom screech. The sports car's motor was very loud. It could be heard from far away. The sports car seemed to be moving very fast. By the time the crowd reacted, the sports car was already parked on a downhill road beside them. In 1998, even cars were considered rare luxury goods, not to mention sports cars. Wang Ba's mother and the rest turned around immediately when they heard the sound. Wang Ba's mother even wanted to use the sports car that appeared out of nowhere to brag to Yun Jian, so that she would be speechless and feel even more embarrassed. Yun Jian looked at the sports car that appeared out of nowhere as well, and squinted her eyes in surprise. Hey, you've never seen it before. Do you know what a sports car is? Wang Ba's mother pointed at the sports car that had appeared out of nowhere, wanting to boast about her knowledge. Xiao Yunju suddenly let go of Yun Jian's hand. He jumped excitedly towards the young man, who came down from the Lamborghini sports car while shouting, "Brother Ce." Ce stepped out of the Lamborghini sports car with his long legs, and his flawless handsome face was revealed. Seeing Xiao Yunju running towards him, he quickly carried Xiao Yunju. Wang Ba's mother and Wang Wugui were dumbfounded. Chapter 357. What was going on? When Wang Wugui and Wang Ba's mother saw the sports car that appeared out of nowhere, their first reaction was envy from the bottom of their hearts. Their family could afford a car, but it didn't mean that they could afford a sports car. Especially in this era, how many families in the city could afford a car? Moreover, a sports car's fuel consumption was incomparable to a car's. In other words, even if Wang Ba's family could afford a sports car, even if someone gave them a sports car for free, they wouldn't be able to afford a sports car based on its fuel consumption. However, they could afford a car, but other families didn't. Based on this, Wang Ba's mother had already bragged to many people. However, when she saw the high-end and domineering Lamborghini, although she couldn't tell what kind of car it was, she could tell that it was a sports car. Wang Wugui and Wang Ba's mother naturally envied her from the bottom of their hearts. Wang Ba's mother actually wanted to show off her knowledge in front of Yun Jian, so that she would think that she was the kind of person who could afford a sports car. However, she didn't expect Xiao Yunju to recognize the young man who drove the sports car. When she looked at Ce again, he was already carrying Xiao Yunju and walking towards Yun Jian. What's going on? Ce frowned. His cold and handsome face twitched as he glanced at Wang Ba's family from the corner of his eyes like a hawk's. He stood in front of Yun Jian and asked, "Nothing, it's just a bunch of flies blowing in my ear." Yun Jian waved her hand, as though she was trying to chase away flies. Flies? Ce raised his eyebrows and said. Wang Ba's mother sucked in a sharp breath when she saw Ce's face. When she saw Ce speak, she thought that he would say something fair that she wanted to hear. However, she didn't expect Ce to rub Xiao Yunju's head. His handsome face twitched and his brows twitched. Since it's just a few annoying flies, it's better to kill them. On the surface, he looked friendly, but the words he said were even more terrifying than Yun Jian's actions. Wang Ba's mother, Wang Wugui, and Wang Ba stood at the side and listened with cold sweat on their backs. Why were the young people who came today more barbaric than the other? Due to the awkwardness just now, Wang Ba's family didn't want to stay any longer. They turned around and wanted to run. At this moment, they heard a sinister voice came from behind them. "I've memorized your license plate. From now on, New Cruise's business with you." Thru's mother's license plate, On's license plate, the owner's names, and so on. That was why Yun Jian's mother's. What? Wang Ba's father wanted to run away with his tail between his legs. Wang Wugui's muscular body stood beside Yun Jian and said with a ferocious expression, "Why should New Cruise listen to you? Who do you think you are? You think you're going to stop doing business with us just because you said so? Because she's New Cruise's director." Unknowingly, there was another high-end Audi parked by the road. Zhang Jifan got out of the car and heard Wang Wugui's words. He walked over angrily and blocked Yun Jian's path as he spoke to Wang Wugui. Chapter 358. In spite of it, Zhang Jifan's words did not seem to have any effect on Wang Wugui when they reached him. Instead, Wang Wugui pointed at Yun Jian and told Zhang Jifan, "TSK, you're saying she's New Cruise's director? Are you King kidding me? Look at this girl. How does she look like New Cruise's director? She's dressed in rags, but New Cruise's director doesn't look like that. She should at least have 3 branded items on her." These were just the images Wang Wugui came up with for New Cruise's director. What Wang Wugui meant was to refute that Yun Jian was not New Cruise's director. TSK, what a joke. Who was he kidding? This girl dressed in cheap clothes was New Cruise's director? If she was New Cruise's director, he would be the country's general manager. Yun Jian was not upset by Wang Wugui's words. She did not even look at him. Instead, she turned to Zhang Jifan and pointed at the Santana sedan's license plate, telling Zhang Jifan directly, "Remember the license plate number. Block all information about him when we get back. New Cruise will never do any business with him in the future." "Yes, Sister Jian." Zhang Jifan nodded and ignored Wang Wugui. She spoke as if she meant it. Actually, Wang Wugui's eyelids were already twitching when he saw how confident Yun Jian was. Could it be that this little girl was really? Wang Wugui was startled by his own thoughts. In the end, he took his wife and son and hurriedly left this place. What's the matter? Yin Jian finally asked Zhang Jifan. Sister Jian, Wanda Corporation invited you to a party at 6 tomorrow night. Are you going? Zhang Jifan asked. Zhang Jifan was rich now and had bought a branded car, but he had yet to buy a phone. He had probably been too busy recently, so busy that he did not even have time to buy one. Therefore, Zhang Jifan drove over to ask Yun Jian. He had gone to Yun Jian's school, but there was no one there. It was also Xiao Yunju's school's dismissal time. Zhang Jifan was smart enough to come here. He was only there to ask Yun Jian. After Yun Jian answered him, he had to leave and rush to his work. There was no time to lose. Yun Jian squinted her eyes. Wanda Corporation? Wasn't Wanda Corporation Zhang Xiaofeng's father's company? What a coincidence. Zhang Xiaofeng had reminded her repeatedly that she had to attend the masquerade party tomorrow night. Now, Zhang Jifan was telling her that Wanda had invited her as the representative of New Cruise. I'll go. Yun Jian answered almost immediately. Zhang Jifan looked like he was saying, that's great. As long as Yun Jian was willing to go, he did not have to do it on her behalf anymore. He could continue working on his own matters. Oh, okay, Sister Jian. I'll leave this to you then. Zhang Jifan said, and waved at Xiao Yunju before he left. Thus, there were only Yun Jian, Xiao Yunju, and Ce left. Ce Gij, this lollipop is for you. Xiao Yunju was the first to break the silence, passing a strawberry-flavored lollipop to Ce with a drooping face like he was anticipating a compliment. Looking at the red strawberry-flavored lollipop, Yun Jian's lips tugged into a smirk. This color matched Ce. He probably wouldn't accept it, would he? In spite of it, Ce accepted Xiao Yunju's lollipop, and even praised Xiao Yunju with a rub on his head, before he opened the lollipop package, and popped it into his mouth. Yun Jian was also stuffing Xiao Yunju's lollipop into her mouth. Her mouth was slightly agape, as she watched Ce stuff the strawberry-flavored lollipop into his mouth. Did he really eat it? Yun Jian was stupefied. The lollipop dangled by her lips as her jaw dropped. You've been staring at my lollipop for a long time. Since you like the taste of my lollipop so much, let's change. Chapter 359. Yun Jian's heart thumped wildly when she saw Ce actually stuffing the lollipop she had already eaten into his mouth. She had never imagined that he would actually eat the lollipop she had already licked. Yun Jian was still holding the lollipop Ce had already eaten. She was stunned. You're not eating it? Ce raised his eyebrows when he saw that Yun Jian didn't put the lollipop in her mouth. You've already eaten it. I don't want it. Yun Jian frantically stuffed the lollipop back into Ce's hand as a faint blush crept across her cheeks. Ce turned his face sideways, so that his perfect profile was facing Yun Jian. He reached out and stuffed the strawberry-flavored lollipop he had just eaten into his mouth as well. His eyes narrowed into slits as he smiled wickedly. Yun Jian's eyelids twitched twice. Her cheeks suddenly flushed red as she stood rooted to the ground and gritted her teeth. Then she said angrily to Ce, "You're really shameless." The scene of Ce stuffing 2 lollipops into his mouth at the same time was simply indescribable, especially when she knew that one of the lollipops was one that she had eaten before. Yun Jian felt even more embarrassed at the thought. "I'm only shameless in front of you." Ce slowly held the 2 lollipops in his hand. His handsome face faced Yun Jian as he stared fixedly at her with his mesmerizing eyes. "Big brother Ce, what do you mean by shameless?" Xiao Yunju looked suspiciously at Yun Jian and Ce's actions. He shook his head from side to side as he asked with the lollipop in his mouth. A child with a curiosity that didn't fully understand was like a million whys, and always had endless questions to ask. "Of course it's to praise your big brother Ce." Yun Jian replied to Xiao Yunju before Ce could. Yun Jian hadn't expected Xiao Yunju to ask Ce this question. She didn't want Xiao Yunju to know that she was scolding Ce, so she hurriedly spoke first. "Oh." Xiao Yunju shook his little head, as though he understood what she meant. Yun Jian let out a small sigh of relief. However, at this moment, Xiao Yunju's tender voice was heard again. He raised his head to look at Ce, and revealed his adorable little face. He praised Ce earnestly. Big brother Ce, you're really shameless. After that, Yunju looked up at Ce like he was waiting for a reward, blinking from time to time. Puffed. Cough cough. Yunjian couldn't help but laugh out loud. However, she quickly stopped herself and coughed to cover up the awkwardness. As expected, Ce's face instantly darkened. Big brother Ce, why are you so unhappy? Did Xiao Yunju say something wrong? Xiao Yunju blinked as he looked at Ce and then at Yunjian strangely. You didn't say anything wrong. Your big brother Ce is very happy. Yunjian held back her laughter. She held Xiao Yunju's hand and happily strode forward. It was only when she was with Ce and Xiao Yunju that it was the most fun. At the same time, Yunjian dared to open her heart and laugh out loud. Ce suddenly walked around Xiao Yunju and leaned over to Yunjian's ear. He gently exhaled and said in a mellow voice with a hint of magnetism, "See how I'll deal with you." These words were extremely flirtatious, but Yunjian didn't feel the slightest bit repulsed. Her ears tingled, and she reached out to push Ce away. Xiaozhu, let's go. Ignore your big brother Ce. Yunjian grabbed Xiao Yunju's hand and took 2 steps forward. Chapter 360. Brother Ce, you're so shameless. When Xiao Yunju saw Ce reach out to grab Yunjian's wrist, he hurriedly raised his small hands and clapped twice as a form of applause. Xiao Yunju seemed to automatically categorize this as a compliment. He clapped his hands because his teacher had taught him that when praising others, he had to clap his hands. When he saw Ce reach out to grab Yunjian's wrist, he clapped out of habit to praise her. Ce's face was terrifyingly dark. He grabbed Yunjian's wrist with one hand and wrapped his other arm around Xiao Yunju's waist. He carried him single-handedly and walked towards the Lamborghini sports car. When he threw Xiao Yunju and Yunjian into the car, Ce started the engine. The car was like a bolt of lightning as it sped away in the blink of an eye. When they reached home, Xiao Yunju carried his small school bag and went to the study on the first floor to do his homework. Ce, on the other hand, held Yunjian's hand and went upstairs. The moment they left Xiao Yunju's field of vision, Ce pinned her against the wall with his height advantage. Yunjian squeezed her body, but was still pinned against the wall by Ce. She asked, "What are you doing?" "Of course, I'm doing what a shameless person should do." Ce smiled. He raised his thick brows and pressed his tall body against hers. Yunjian was kissed passionately, but she gradually lost herself in it. They only let go of each other when they were almost out of breath. "Be my woman." Ce hugged Yunjian as they stood in the corner. He declared domineeringly. His words were not a greeting, but an affirmation. She buried her head in Ce's chest and took in his light, fresh scent. She couldn't help but nod her head gently. Ce, on the other hand, wore a charming smirk. This was considered as establishing their identities. Yunjian nestled in Ce's arms. Her eyes were downcast, but the faint blush on her cheeks revealed her current emotions. After Yunjian agreed, Ce hugged her even tighter. He had always been a man who dared to take responsibility for his actions. Back then, he hated women, so he had never planned to find a woman and had never considered this possibility. However, Ce could guarantee that the person he approved of was definitely not just a playful relationship between a man and a woman. He wanted to pursue Yunjian with the premise of marriage. Yunjian did not know why she agreed to Ce's request. When she came to her senses, she had already agreed to his request. However, Yunjian didn't regret it. The next day in the evening, the sky turned dark quickly in winter. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the sky had already begun to turn dark. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Wanda Company, would be holding a masquerade party. The reason why it was called a masquerade party was that the people who entered the party would usually dress up repeatedly before going. Naturally, makeup was essential. Of course, they also needed to wear a decent gown. Zhang Xiaofeng had already prepared the gowns for Yunjian and Yunyi. Yunyi wore a black suit. Yunjian also wore the evening gown that Zhang Xiaofeng had asked Chen Sini to send to her. Yunjian even tied her hair up and put on light makeup. It was very light makeup. It looked as if she had never put on makeup before. However, one had to admit that Yunjian's skin was very good. Her skin was fair, and her lips were red and tender. Chapter 361. To put it bluntly, this masquerade party was a gathering for people from the same circle to get to know each other and make friends. Naturally, the children would play with the other children, while the adults would discuss adult matters. However, the similarity of the masquerade party was that everyone came dressed up beautifully. It could even be said that this was a blind date in disguise. This was because some rich families would bring their daughters or sons of marriageable age, who were dressed up prettily, or their sons who were dressed coolly. If they met someone who had the same goal as their family, they could naturally get to know each other. After all, rich people nowadays were particular about matching in social status. It was the best choice to pick a son-in-law or daughter-in-law for one's daughter or son at such a large-scale masquerade party. Yunjian rarely put on makeup. In her previous life, other than when she was on a mission, she would usually appear barefaced. She only put on light makeup for this masquerade party, and this was for Zhang Xiaofeng's sake. CE would not show up at such a large-scale event. And of course, Yunjian did not bring Qingyu along either. After all, Zhang Xiaofeng only invited her and her brother Yunyi. The evening gown that Chen Sini sent to Yunjian was a hollowed-out black lace gown. However, there was enough fabric inside to cover the parts that should not be exposed, so there was no need to worry about a mishap. However, there was a disadvantage to this evening gown, which was that it exposed her shoulders. Wearing such thin clothes in such a cold winter would naturally make one shiver in the cold wind. In fact, most people wore evening gowns that exposed their shoulders and arms. This masquerade party was held indoors. There was a heater in the room, so as long as one walked in, they would not feel cold anymore. Yunjian wore this evening gown that exposed her shoulders, and a down jacket on the outside. The combination looked odd, but Yunjian did not mind at all. After meeting her brother, Yunyi, and Zhang Xiaofeng brought Yunjian and Yunyi into the room where the masquerade party was held. It was only then that the heater in the room was turned on. "Let's go and greet my dad first." "Master, my dad has been wanting to meet you since he found out that I've been learning from you." Zhang Xiaofeng led Yunjian and Yunyi into the room. In front of them, a tall middle-aged man was holding a wine glass and chatting with the person in front of him. Zhang Xiaofeng walked directly to the tall middle-aged man. "Feng, are you here?" When the tall middle-aged man saw Zhang Xiaofeng, he immediately greeted the person standing opposite him before he turned to Zhang Xiaofeng and asked. The tall middle-aged man was Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Zhang Qishan. Zhang Qishan. This name was actually quite rustic. Actually, Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Zhang Qishan, did not have a good life when he was young. His parents were all from the countryside, so naturally, the name that they gave him was not flattering. When Zhang Qishan was young, he ventured out alone. Later on, because he took the right path, he slowly became rich out of thin air. Until now, Wanda Corporation was a big brand company in Country Z. "Yes, Dad, this is my master." Zhang Xiaofeng pointed at Yunjian and introduced her to Zhang Qishan. Zhang Xiaofeng had heard from his son that Zhang Xiaofeng was learning from Yunjian. Chapter 362. Yunjian's appearance was indeed disproportionate to her ability. It was no wonder that Zhang Qishan could not believe that she was the skilled master his son had been talking about every day when he first saw her. "Hello, uncle." Yunjian greeted Zhang Qishan politely. Hello, young lady." Zhang Qishan nodded and smiled apologetically at Yunjian and Yunyi. "Please forgive me for not being a good host. Uncle has something to do now, so please take a walk around." Zhang Qishan actually had something important to discuss with the person he was talking to earlier, so he spoke like that. In fact, for a group of businessmen like Zhang Qishan, this masquerade party was just a party held to make more friends who would be useful to their business. It was just to make some connections. Thank you, uncle." Yunjian thanked him politely and walked away with Zhang Xiaofeng and Yunyi. "Hey, master, the temperature in the room is just right. It's not too cold or too hot. Why are you still wrapped in such a thick down jacket?" Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Yun Jian and asked in confusion. It's fine like this. Yun Jian pulled herself together. She didn't plan to take off the down jacket that was wrapped around her impressive body. She wasn't boasting, but this body was really developed too well. It was curvy in all the right places and concave in all the right places. The original owner's looks weren't just for show. On the contrary, if Yun Jian took off her down jacket, perhaps everyone's eyes would converge on her. This comparison wasn't exaggerated at all. Yun Jian didn't want to stand out either. Hey, look, the two of them are finally here. Zhang Xiaofeng nodded in confusion at Yun Jian's decision. Suddenly, he glanced over and saw people coming in from the door. He stood up and waved at them as he spoke to Yun Jian. Chen Xini and Ling Yichen came in side by side with a few other young men and women around their age trailing behind them. However, judging by Chen Xini and Ling Yichen's expressions, they did not seem to welcome the young men and women behind them at all. Chen Xini was wearing a pink strapless evening gown today. Her rather tall and straight figure was completely exposed. Ling Yichen, on the other hand, wore a black suit of the same style. The suit on Ling Yichen added quite a bit of handsomeness to him. The moment they saw Yun Jian, Chen Xini and Ling Yichen looked like they had seen their savior. They quickly ran toward Yun Jian and tried to shake off the young men and women behind them. Jian Jian. Chen Xini called Yun Jian and ran behind Yun Jian. Ling Yichen's too. Hey, why are you running so fast? We can't catch up. Is this how you treat your guests? The young men and women who had been trailing behind Chen Xini and Ling Yichen caught up as well. One of the younger girls pointed at Chen Xini and Ling Yichen and shouted. The girl was dressed extravagantly. She was covered in glittering gold from head to toe, and there was a huge bow at the bottom of her chest that hugged her waist that was not particularly thick. The girl's name was Song Shanshan. Song Shanshan and the group of young men and women behind her were actually Zhang Xiaofeng's distant relatives. Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Zhang Qishan, was not originally from Jia province. He came from the mountains in the north. These young men and women were actually Zhang Qishan's distant relatives, who came from the remote mountains in the north. Among them, Song Shanshan was a classic example. Song Shanshan's family was distant relatives to Zhang Qishan. In addition to the fact that it was the end of the year, the schools in the remote mountains had already started their winter break. Song Shanshan's group came to Zhang Xiaofeng's house as soon as the winter break started. After they arrived, they addressed themselves as their family's distinguished guests and started asking for all sorts of things. As an elder, Zhang Qishan especially felt that it was rare for distant relatives to come to Jia province for a vacation, so he tried his best to satisfy their requests. For example, they wanted to wear gold and silver, buy all sorts of delicious food and fun things. All of these money was now paid for by Zhang Xiaofeng's father. These students who called themselves distant relatives, on the other hand, spent money like water. It was as if they had a free ATM machine, spending money everywhere. Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Xini, and Ling Yichen had long been unhappy with this group of people. However, because Zhang Qishan was above them, they could only let them pester them. For example, just now when Zhang Xiaofeng finally managed to escape, Song Shanshan's group asked Chen Xini and Ling Yichen to bring them around with the excuse that they were distant relatives. Chapter 363. Song Shanshan and her friends came from the poor mountains. They had not seen much of the world on a daily basis, so they decided to stay at Zhang Xiaofeng's house, since the winter break was earlier than usual. As the host, Zhang Qishan was very well behaved. He treated Song Shanshan and her family with the best hospitality that he could give them when his poor relatives came to visit. Needless to say, the glittering gowns Song Shanshan and her entourage were wearing were bought by Zhang Qishan with justifiable reasons. Otherwise, with their family's financial situation, they probably wouldn't be able to afford such an evening gown, even if they spent the rest of their lives. Zhang Qishan was the only tycoon who managed to earn big bucks, so he became a free ATM in Song Shanshan and her friends' eyes. After all, Song Shanshan and her friends were used to living a hard life, so they came to Longmen City to look for Zhang Qishan. Moreover, Zhang Qishan himself was generous, so the students did not hold back when they talked nonsense. Anyway, it wasn't their money that was being used. Therefore they began to spend lavishly. Don't follow us anymore. Chen Sini hissed at Song Shanshan and her friends through clenched teeth. Song Shanshan and her friends were thick-skinned. Why else would they freeload at their relative's house? On the other hand, Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng were cousins. Chen Sini and Song Shanshan's group were more or less related to each other. However, the actions of Song Shanshan and her group had already made it impossible not to hate them. Do you think I'll stop just because you say so? Humph, how dare you treat me like this? Believe it or not, I'll tell uncle that you're bullying us. Song Shanshan pointed at Chen Sini with a smug look on her face. The uncle Song Shanshan mentioned was actually Zhang Qishan. Chen Sini was angry as well. She was about to argue with Song Shanshan, but was stopped by Zhang Xiaofeng. Ignore them. We'll go our own way, Zhang Xiaofeng said, looking at Yun Jian and Chen Sini. Wait, stop. Song Shanshan led them to stop Yun Jian and her friends, standing in the path that Yun Jian and her friends were about to go. This is a masquerade party. Why don't you take off your jacket? Song Shanshan stared at Yun Jian's fair and delicate face for a while, and asked with a hint of envy and jealousy in her voice. Song Shanshan was asking the same question as Zhang Xiaofeng. Song Shanshan had an average appearance to begin with, especially these kids who came from the mountains. They were used to living a hard life, and now that they were in Jia province, of course, they wanted to have fun. Today at the masquerade party, Song Shanshan led the group of girls, and thought that it would be great if they could have a romantic encounter at the party. Perhaps they could even catch the eye of a rich man. Yun Jian was called out all of a sudden. She was extremely lazy. She glanced at Song Shanshan and her friends from the corner of her eyes and replied, I don't want to take it off. Yun Jian's indifference made Song Shanshan choke. When she heard Yun Jian's words, Song Shanshan even puffed out her chest. She thought that Yun Jian's body under the down jacket would be skinny and underage. Take it off, let me have a look. Song Shanshan's curiosity was piqued as she stopped Yun Jian and demanded unreasonably. Chapter 364. Song Shanshan and her group came from a poor village. Even though they had been staying at Zhang Qishan's house for a few days, they had been trying to change themselves, such as spending Zhang Qishan's money, buying branded goods, styling their hair, and so on. But deep in their bones, they still couldn't get rid of the wildness that came from the countryside. Now that Chen Sini said that, Song Shanshan was furious. She said to Yun Jian, What are you protecting? Are you protecting Bauer? You won't even take off your jacket. Song Shanshan just wanted to see if Yun Jian's figure and proportions were slimmer than hers. After all, girls were creatures who liked to compare themselves. Although she came from a poor village, she was very concerned about these things. From Song Shanshan's point of view, Yun Jian had such a delicate face, but refused to take off her down jacket. It must be because her body was too thin, or she had a lot of fat around her waist. Thinking of this, Song Shanshan's expression softened a lot. So what? Yun Jian turned to look at Song Shanshan. She suddenly felt that this girl and the group behind her were very funny. Song Shanshan saw Yun Jian's expression and knew that she was determined not to take off her down jacket. I hate it when city people like you put on such a face and act like you're so noble. Song Shanshan first scolded Yun Jian. Then she continued to speak. The tone of her words made people feel disgusted. Song Shanshan pointed at Yun Jian and shouted, Based on your expression just now, you have to take off your down jacket today whether you want to or not. Her determined words made Yun Jian frown slightly. Yun Jian was not afraid of Song Shanshan's threat. The jacket is on me. Are you sure you have the ability to take it off? Yun Jian stuck out her pinky and hooked it at Song Shanshan as if mocking her. His action infuriated Song Shanshan. Due to the backward economy and the fact that there were only a few people in the village, it would take about 2 hours to walk from the village to the town. Song Shanshan was a country bumpkin who liked to bully others with her numbers. Yun Jian's action of sticking out her pinky had completely infuriated her. You city people are so delicate. Today, I'll let you know what it's like to cry. Song Shanshan was infuriated. She looked at Yin Jian's beautiful and delicate face, and her heart was already filled with envy. Now that he heard Yin Jian's words, his anger was rising. I'll beat you to death. City people, how arrogant. Song Shanshan said as she ran toward Yin Jian, trying to pull off Yin Jian's down jacket. Song Shanshan's brute force was considered decent among women. However, in front of Yin Jian, it was not enough. After Song Shanshan's ruckus, many people around had turned to look. When everyone looked over, they saw Song Shanshan pouncing toward Yin Jian, trying to hold her down and forcefully pull off her clothes. However, the crowd only saw Yin Jian, tilting her body slightly and dodging Song Shanshan's pounce. Then, she smirked coldly, and took off her down jacket in front of everyone. In the next second, she grabbed the down jacket, and wrapped it around Song Shanshan, tying her up like how a person would be tied up. This was Yin Jian's jacket that she had taken off herself. However, when Song Shanshan was tied up into a hemp ball and fell to the ground, the crowd saw Yin Jian's slender body exposed to their eyes. The black hollowed-out evening gown on her body accentuated her shapely figure, making it hard for people to take their eyes off her. Song Shanshan was tied up and thrown to the ground, but she could still see Yin Jian. Chapter 365. It was undeniable that Yin Jian's perfect figure, coupled with her exquisite and perfect face, was revealed when she removed the clumsy down jacket. Right now, she was definitely the most eye-catching among everyone present. Song Shanshan, who was slightly bound by the down jacket, was dumbfounded. She stared at the absolutely stunning young lady, standing in front of everyone's eyes. At that moment, Song Shanshan regretted her decision to make Yin Jian take off her jacket. When she came back to her senses, Song Shanshan screamed, "Let me go! Let me go! Is this how you treat your guests? I'm a guest from afar. You can't treat me like this." Song Shanshan struggled a few times, but realized that she could not break free from the down jacket's bindings. It was just a down jacket, but after Yin Jian tied Song Shanshan up, it seemed to have become a complicated rope. Song Shanshan could not break free from it at all. "What are you screaming for? Scream again, and I'll throw you out on the streets." Yin Jian lowered her head and glared at Song Shanshan, threatening her. When Song Shanshan heard Yin Jian's threat, she really shut her mouth and did not say another word. The way Yin Jian tied her up just now was too strange. She was really scared from the bottom of her heart. "Master, you're amazing!" Zhang Xiaofeng, who was standing beside Yin Jian, kept winking at Yin Jian. He stood aside and whispered to Yin Jian. Only God knew how long Song Shanshan had led this group of relatives to freeload at their house. At first, Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini naturally fought back. In the end, Song Shanshan complained to Zhang Qishan and was severely reprimanded. Even Zhang Xiaofeng's pocket money was confiscated by Zhang Qishan. It was not hard to imagine how much Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini hated Song Shanshan and her gang at this moment. Yin Jian did not look at Zhang Xiaofeng. She glanced sideways at Song Shanshan and her gang. Then, she licked her lips and said again, "Take this down jacket as a gift from me. Even dogs know when to bite. If you bark, you're worse than a beast." After that, Yin Jian called out to Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Yi, and the four of them turned and left. Song Shanshan and the others were left behind. They could not even maintain their dignity. However, they were being watched by the people around them, and did not dare to chase after them. Moreover, everyone had witnessed Yin Jian's skills just now, so they dared not behave atrociously. Once they left, Zhang Xiaofeng could not help guffawing. "Ha ha ha, master, you're awesome. Did you see how Song Shanshan looked like she just ate sh*t? Ha, that was so satisfying." "Hehe, Yin Jian, honestly I'm impressed." Chen Sini gave Yin Jian a thumbs up as she chuckled without a trace of her ladylike image. "Sigh, damn. I've never seen a distant relative like her. Freeloading at your house all day long. How scary." Ling Yichen could not help exclaiming. "Xiao Jian, what you did just now was so cool." Even her brother Yun Yi, who had been quiet all this while, could not help exclaiming. "Guh, do you want to learn?" Yin Jian turned to look at Yun Yi and asked with a chuckle. Of course, Yun Yi gave Yin Jian an affirmative answer. I'll teach you and Zhang Xiaofeng this trick later, Yun Jian said with a smile. Chapter 366. TSKU? Ling Yichen, with your physique, I think you should just forget about it. Chen Sini mocked Ling Yichen when she saw that he was about to join in the fray. Then, Chen Sini and Ling Yichen started poking fun at each other again. Yun Jian did not say anything, but from her pursed lips, one could tell that she was in a good mood. Hey, did you guys know? I heard that the director of new cruise is coming to the party today. I wonder when he'll be here. At that moment, Yun Jian and the rest walked past a group of people who were chatting together and happened to hear their conversation. Hey, really? That famous director of new cruise is coming too? I heard that new cruise has always been managed by someone called Zhang Jifan. The director of new cruise is so mysterious. Another round of whispers came. To be honest, Yun Jian's ears perked up when she heard about new cruise. It was her own company after all, so the concept was different. Hey master, isn't that your company they're talking about? However, before he could finish his sentence, Zhang Xiaofeng stopped himself in time. Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, and Ling Yichen were learning from Zhang Jifan. This was something that Yun Jian had already acquiesced to. However, Zhang Xiaofeng knew that announcing Yun Jian's identity would cause a huge uproar. Hence, Zhang Xiaofeng only mentioned it, but the meaning behind it was obvious. Yun Jian replied, and walked past the group of people who were still discussing the topic. Yuni was confused. He rubbed his nose and followed Yun Jian. No matter how much his brother Yuni thought about it, he would never consider that. His younger sister was the director of new cruise. The masquerade party had started a long time ago, and the so-called masquerade party was nothing more than a group of people chatting, eating desserts, and dancing. You're all here. Soon, Zhang Qishan was done talking to the people from before, and walked to Yun Jian and the rest who were tasting desserts. I was talking to my business partners just now, so I forgot about you guys. I'm sorry. Zhang Qishan was already in front of Yun Jian and the rest. He even smiled apologetically at Yun Jian and the rest. Yun Jian responded politely. Young lady, I should thank you too. Look at how you're teaching my Feng. You don't charge anything. Zhang Qishan said and paused. I'm not taking in disciples, of course. I won't charge them. Zhang Qishan was a nice person. He expressed his deep friendliness to Yun Jian and the rest. Uncle. Just then, Song Shanshan's not-so-pleasant voice was heard again. Many people had seen how Yun Jian tied Song Shanshan up. However, because the venue was huge, Zhang Qishan, who was standing far away, did not see it at all. Hey, what's wrong, Shanshan? Zhang Qishan asked with a frown as he turned around abruptly and saw Song Shanshan's disheveled face. Uncle, it's fine. I'm fine. No one bullied me because I'm from the countryside. I'm really fine. Song Shanshan lowered her eyes and blinked hard to squeeze out a tear. Chapter 367. Song Shanshan's words were a blatant lie. After Zhang Qishan heard this, he immediately frowned. What's going on? Feng, did you bully your sister again? Zhang Qishan immediately pointed his finger at Zhang Xiaofeng. Dad, I didn't. Zhang Xiaofeng felt wronged. He turned to glare at Song Shanshan, feeling wronged. Uncle, he didn't. Brother Xiaofeng really didn't bully me. He really didn't. Song Shanshan's voice became softer and softer as she spoke. There was a hint of pity in her tone. Her pitiful look made Zhang Qishan misunderstand even more. Zhang Qishan immediately pointed his finger at his son. He looked at Zhang Xiaofeng and reprimanded him loudly. Feng, Shanshan is your sister. How can you bully her like this every day? Dad, I didn't. Zhang Xiaofeng was instantly enraged. He stood up and yelled at Zhang Qishan, sounding like a man who refused to admit defeat. Moreover, I don't have a sister like her. One in front of everyone, and one behind everyone. Zhang Xiaofeng could no longer hold it in and growled. Uncle, don't throw a tantrum at Brother Xiaofeng because of me. It's not good. Brother Xiaofeng will hate me even more. Song Shanshan added. It was not to the point of no return yet. Zhang Qishan was instantly enraged. He felt that Song Shanshan and the rest were his distant relatives. They came all the way from a remote village to his house as guests. On the other hand, his son Zhang Xiaofeng kept showing an unwelcoming attitude. It was too embarrassing for him. Zhang Qishan raised his hand and slapped Zhang Xiaofeng hard. No one saw the smirk on Song Shanshan's face at Zhang Xiaofeng. Song Shanshan watched as Zhang Qishan swung his hand at Zhang Xiaofeng. Just as his hand was about to hit Zhang Xiaofeng's handsome face, a pair of fair and delicate hands reached out to stop him. Yin Jian reached out and stopped Zhang Qishan. She pulled Zhang Xiaofeng to the side and dodged the slap. "Uncle, I was the one who bullied her." Yin Jian did not evade the accusation. She stood up boldly and admitted the truth. "You?" Zhang Qishan was stunned. It was as if he was getting to know Yin Jian all over again. He looked at her from head to toe and was completely dumbfounded. Song Shanshan gritted her teeth. She did not expect Yin Jian to admit it, but it was good. "Uncle, don't fight with my brothers and sisters because of me. I'm going back to the village in a few days anyway." Song Shanshan pretended that she was forced to go back to the village. Her demeanor made Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest shudder in disgust once more. "Go, go, go. Go back as soon as possible." Zhang Xiaofeng followed Song Shanshan's words and shouted. Song Shanshan naturally did not plan to go back. She just wanted to pretend to be pitiful in front of Zhang Qishan. Zhang Qishan would definitely ask her to stay in the end. Song Shanshan was right. When Zhang Qishan heard his son's unreasonable words, he immediately shouted at Zhang Xiaofeng, "Feng er!" Chapter 368. "But uncle, brother Xiaofeng, and the rest don't seem to welcome me here." Song Shanshan blinked, even sneering triumphantly at Yin Jian from an angle that Zhang Qishan could not see. "That's not true." Zhang Qishan was completely fooled by Song Shanshan. He turned to look at his son, Zhang Xiaofeng, and ordered him, "Feng er, apologize to Shanshan right now." "Why should I, Dad? I didn't bully her. Master has already said it." Zhang Xiaofeng said innocently. He gritted his teeth hatefully, but he refused to give in. Yin Jian had already admitted that she bullied Song Shanshan. But Zhang Qishan could not order Yin Jian to apologize to Song Shanshan. Therefore, Zhang Qishan naturally wanted to take a step back and let his son, Zhang Xiaofeng, apologize on behalf of his master, Yin Jian. Shanshan was magnanimous. She would probably let it go, right? After all, from Zhang Qishan's point of view, Song Shanshan and the rest were all innocent children. These children were just like him when he was young in the countryside. Because their family was poor and had no money, they had to starve from a young age. Today, with Song Shanshan as the guest, Zhang Qishan felt that he had to treat them well. "I bullied her. I apologize." Yin Jian suddenly spoke up. Master." Zhang Xiaofeng was dumbfounded. Chen Xinyi and Ling Yichen were stunned as well. From what they could see, Yin Jian had never apologized to anyone before. She was so domineering, yet she wanted to apologize to Song Shanshan on behalf of Zhang Xiaofeng? Song Shanshan was stunned too, but she was proud of herself. Zhang Qishan was stunned too. Yin Jian was his son's master, and Song Shanshan was his distant relative. Zhang Qishan was the one who felt the most embarrassed when the two of them quarreled. He wanted Zhang Xiaofeng to apologize to Song Shanshan, because he did not want to embarrass Yin Jian. Secondly, he wanted to appease Song Shanshan. It was just that his son Zhang Xiaofeng had to suffer. However, he did not expect Yin Jian to stand up and apologize. At this moment, Yin Jian stepped forward. She walked up to Song Shanshan and pursed her red lips under Song Shanshan's expectant gaze. Yin Jian pursed her red lips and said, "First of all, I want to apologize for your insistence on taking off my down jacket just now. When I refused, you attacked me and took off my clothes." After Zhang Xiaofeng and the others heard Yin Jian's apology, they were all stunned. "Ha, is Yin Jian apologizing?" She was simply conveying a message to Zhang Qishan. That was because Song Shanshan insisted on taking off her clothes. That was why she fought back. "You, what nonsense are you talking about? I didn't." Song Shanshan was taken aback. She did not expect Yin Jian to use such a method to express her actions. "Oh, you forgot?" The corners of Yin Jian's lips curled up into a creepy smirk as she looked at Song Shanshan with a smile that sent chills down one's spine. Uncle, she's talking nonsense. There's no such thing. Song Shanshan panicked, because her true self was exposed before Zhang Qishan's eyes. She quickly explained, "My master's down jacket is still in their hands. Song Shanshan was the one who took off my master's clothes and took it away." Zhang Xiaofeng had an idea. He saw someone standing behind Song Shanshan still holding Yin Jian's down jacket. So he turned around and accused Song Shanshan. You're lying." Song Shanshan was really panicking now. She shouted at Zhang Xiaofeng again in fear. Chapter 369. This time, Song Shanshan was truly speechless as she pulled a long face. After Yun Jian had tied her up earlier and Song Shanshan had someone release her, she gritted her teeth and said she wanted revenge. Someone in Song Shanshan's group had picked up Yun Jian's down jacket and brought it along. After all, they came from the poor countryside. The person who brought the down jacket had food and clothing problems all year round. Seeing that Yun Jian did not want the down jacket anymore, she quickly took it with her. It was such a waste not to take such a good piece of clothing. Song Shanshan did not notice it either. After she was released, her mind was preoccupied with taking revenge on Yun Jian, so she hurried over with the group. She did not expect her carelessness to be used against her. Song Shanshan kept repeating the same word. She could not even finish the rest of her sentence. Zhang Qishan was also a farmer from the countryside, but after so many years in the business world, how could he not notice the change in Song Shanshan? Especially when Zhang Qishan saw Yun Jian for the first time. Yun Jian was wearing the down jacket. Now the down jacket was in the hands of Song Shanshan and her people. What did this mean? Uncle, Song Shanshan was anxious to explain herself. However, Zhang Qishan stopped her. Alright, don't say anything. I'll send all of you back to the countryside tomorrow. Zhang Qishan's attitude changed too quickly. In fact, Zhang Qishan had met many scheming people when he was working in Longmen City in his early years. There were even many who were two-faced. After being deceived a few times, Zhang Qishan hated such people very, very much. In the beginning, Song Shanshan and the rest gave Zhang Qishan the impression that they were good children who would not do anything bad. They came from the countryside and were his distant relatives. It was only natural for him to take care of them. However, when Zhang Qishan found out about Song Shanshan's true colors just now, he did not expose her immediately. However, his impatient expression proved one thing. He did not want to see Song Shanshan and her group anymore. Moreover, Zhang Xiaofeng was his son. As a father, he would naturally side with his son. Uncle. Song Shanshan panicked when she saw that Zhang Qishan was serious. However, Zhang Qishan cut her off impatiently. That's enough. You've been playing here for days. Your parents will be worried. This statement meant that Zhang Qishan was determined to send Song Shanshan and the rest back. Song Shanshan's face darkened. Her hatred for Yun Jian and the rest grew. Just as Song Shanshan and the rest's faces darkened in fear, a middle-aged man quickly walked up to Zhang Qishan and asked, CEO Zhang, is the director of New Cruise here? Zhang Qishan was stunned. Only then did he realize that the director of New Cruise would be here today. Zhang Qishan stared blankly for a moment before shaking his head. Not yet. Actually, Zhang Qishan had no idea who the chairman of New Cruise was. This middle-aged white-collar man who came out of nowhere clearly had a favor to ask of New Cruise's director. His eyes darkened when he heard Zhang Qishan's question. Uncle, New Cruise? Is that the company that's been popular lately? Song Shanshan suddenly perked up and lifted her head to ask Zhang Qishan. Although Zhang Qishan was unhappy with Song Shanshan's scheming earlier, he would not ignore her. Hence he nodded. Then, is the director of New Cruise a man or a woman? Song Shanshan asked again. Yun Jian, who was standing not too far away, was surprised by Song Shanshan's question. However, Yun Jian could see Song Shanshan's intention from her gaze. Chapter 370. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell what Song Shanshan's motive was just by looking at her eyes. Especially since Song Shanshan was from the countryside. Someone from the countryside like her, who had been living the life of a rich person for a few days, after coming here, would definitely feel indignant about being sent back to the countryside all of a sudden. Well, I'm not too sure myself. But Shanshan, why are you asking about this? Zhang Qishan did not know what Song Shanshan was thinking, so he asked her back after answering her. Nothing, uncle. It's nothing. I'm just asking. Although Song Shanshan did not say it out loud, her expression was rich. It was not hard to tell that she was excited and expectant. She was looking forward to the chairman of New Cruise being a man, so that she could. Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, and Ling Yichen were stunned when they heard Song Shanshan's words, but soon understood her plan. The three of them snickered to themselves. The person you want to suck up to, the chairman of New Cruise, is right in front of you. They're here. The people from New Cruise are here. Just then a few people came in from the entrance. Someone could not help but shout when they saw them. The people who came in were all men in their 30s and 40s. They were the higher-ups who represented New Cruise in various occasions. Yin Jian knew them too, and was very familiar with them. They were the people who had walked out of Xinjiang town with her, and Zhang Jifan back then. Furthermore, the few of them were doing quite well now. They're here. Which one of them is the chairman of New Cruise? Song Shanshan cried out when she saw them. She could not help but roar in her heart. Who was the chairman of New Cruise? If it was one of these men, then she would definitely have to suck up to them. At least she would never go back to a destitute place like the countryside again. She, Song Shanshan, did not want to go back to the countryside. That was the only way she could think of. The appearance of these men made Zhang Qishan take a few more glances. He had heard of New Cruise before, and among these men, there was a high chance that one of them was the famous chairman of New Cruise. Therefore, Zhang Qishan was also a little excited. The men scanned the place before making their way to where Yun Jian was. Song Shanshan almost screamed when she saw this. Oh my god, they couldn't have walked over because they saw me, right? Yun Yi stood beside Yun Jian. He only frowned slightly as he watched the group of people walking towards them. However, he didn't find anything strange. It was only when the men came to Zhang Qishan, and under his surprised gaze, walked around him to Yun Jian behind him and bowed 90 degrees to Yun Jian, greeting her in unison. Sister Jian. Sister Jian, what? What? These higher-ups of New Cruise were addressing Yun Jian as Sister Jian. It meant Song Shanshan's smile instantly froze on the spot. She was completely dumbfounded. Zhang Qishan was also stunned. As for Yin Yi, who stood beside Yun Jian, his eyelids tightened. Zhang Xiaofeng, on the other hand, went over with a chuckle and put his arm around one of the men's shoulders to chat. Old Hege, you're only here now. The man who was called Old Hege was a gangster who left Xinjiang town with Yun Jian back then. Zhang Xiaofeng and his brothers were now working under Zhang Jifan in New Cruise, so they were familiar with the people there. Zhang Qishan was even more surprised when he saw how familiar his son was with the people in New Cruise. Yun Yi's shock could not be described as astonishment. Looking at Yun Jian, he asked after a beat, Xiao Jian, is New Cruise your company? Yun Yi was smart enough to connect the dots. His younger sister's change and the rise of New Cruise seemed to have started at the same time. As for him asking Yun Jian with a questioning tone, it was only to get a definite answer. Chapter 371. Once Yun Yi said that, the people around them looked at Yun Jian inquisitively. What Yun Yi asked was what everyone was thinking. Since these middle-aged men were New Cruise's higher-ups, it was safe to say that other than Zhang Jifan, or one of New Cruise's directors, they would not respect anyone else. What did it mean when they went to Yun Jian and called her Sister Jian? What did you say? She's New Cruise's director? Song Shanshan shrieked before Yun Jian could answer Yin Yi. New Cruise's director was a woman? It was Yun Jian, who she had argued with before. Song Shanshan dared not accept the truth. Is there a problem? Yun Jian raised a brow and tilted her head to glare at Song Shanshan with a faint smile before looking at Yin Yi and telling him the truth in a firm voice. Yes, I founded New Cruise. Yun Jian's flat and monotonous words sent chills down everyone's spines. Hearing about it was far from being as vivid as seeing it with one's own ears. For a moment, other than Zhang Xiaofeng, Bro He, and the higher-ups of New Cruise, Everyone who heard the commotion, including Yun-yi, were frozen in their last action as they stood dumbly where they were. New cruise? What kind of company was that? Its rise was when the auto show officially kicked off. Until now, it was probably less than 2 months old, and it had already taken the country by storm. It had even become a national model pioneer in the automobile marketing industry. Even some of the international business tycoons would have to nod their heads in awe at such results. The director of such a company, the founder of New Cruise, was a young girl who was not even 18 yet. Yun-yi opened his mouth, but he was so shocked that he could not utter a single word. Was this really his younger sister Yun-jian? When Yun-jian saw the astonishment on her brother's handsome face when he looked at her, she pressed her lips together and continued to explain. "Guh, I didn't tell you before because I was afraid that you wouldn't agree to me starting the company." Of course he would not agree. If Yun-yi had known that Yun-jian wanted to start a company from the start, he would never have let her go down this path. After all, starting a company was a risk that could come at any time. Before Yun-yi could reply to Yun-jian, however, a voice cut in. Cough cough. Hello, director of New Cruise. I have something to discuss with you." The person who spoke was the middle-aged man, who had come to ask Zhang Qishan if New Cruise's director was here. However, before the middle-aged man could finish, Yun-jian cut him off. "You don't have to talk to me about it. Go to the company and look for Zhang Jifan. He can make the decision." Yun-jian was really good at being a hands-off boss. The middle-aged man could only nod and leave. "Uncle, thank you for your hospitality today. I'd like to leave first." Yun-jian waved her arms and said to Zhang Qishan. Zhang Qishan thought that he could ask his son, Zhang Xiaofeng, if he had any questions, so he nodded. Hence, Yun-jian greeted Bro He a few more times and bade farewell to Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest. She then turned to Yun-yi and said, "Go, let's talk outside." From start to finish, the overbearing Song Shanshan had been completely ignored. Chapter 372. Yun-yi stood beside Yun-jian. His tall frame was a stark contrast to Yun-jian's petite frame. He tilted his head to look at his younger sister, his brows furrowed so tightly that they could squash a fly. Just as they stepped out of the heated venue, the winter breeze blew. The piercing wind blew against Yun-jian, who was only wearing an evening gown that exposed her arms and shoulders without a jacket. The winter breeze was the most piercing of all 4 seasons, especially when Yun-jian's down jacket was taken away by Song Shanshan's men. Even if Song Shanshan's men did not want the jacket, Yun-jian would not take it back. "Xiaojian, are you cold?" Yun-yi was shivering from the cold as well, but he was not in a hurry to ask Yun-jian about New Cruise. Instead, he was concerned about his younger sister. "Go, I'm not cold." The weather was freezing, but Yun-jian was not afraid of the cold. In her past life, Yun-jian had gone on a mission in a place that was dozens of degrees below zero. She had only worn a sleeveless jacket back then, and was nearly frozen into a block of ice. In spite of it, she overcame everything and returned after completing the mission. Therefore, to Yun-jian the cold was nothing. Yun-yi, who was wearing a thin suit, was shivering from the cold as well. Just as he was about to remove his jacket to help Yun-jian put it on, he saw a flash in front of him. A man who was as tall as him, but had more defined eyebrows and a finely sculpted face, appeared in front of his younger sister. Ce draped a cotton-padded jacket over Yun-jian. Looking at Yun-jian's face that was red from the cold but unaware of it, he asked with heartache, "Why didn't you bring a jacket out?" Yun-yi's eyelid twitched when he saw Ce, who appeared out of nowhere. Yun-yi was no stranger to Ce since they were living under the same roof, but he had never seen Ce being so gentle to Yun-jian. "Just like a couple in love? Why are you here?" Yun-jian asked Ce as she looked up and adjusted the men's cotton-padded jacket. "Just happened to pass by," Ce said without batting an eyelid. He was not going to say that he followed Yun-jian here on purpose. In spite of it, Ce really did not want to go to such a fancy party, because he disliked the environment. "Let me send you guys home." Ce took a step back to stand beside Yun-jian, and grabbed Yun-jian's hand to head to the car. "Wait!" Yun-yi shouted. "What are you guys doing?" Yunyi asked with furrowed brows when he saw Ce grabbing Yunjian's hand. Yunjian was stunned. She did not expect Ce to grab her hand in front of her brother. She quickly pulled her hand back. Ce was not in a hurry to grab Yunjian's hand. He raised his brows and the street lights shone on him, adding a hint of masculinity to his perfect figure. As you can see, Ce said with a smirk, spreading his arms at Yunyi in an irritating manner. Yunyi's eyes widened. He did not expect Ce to take advantage of the little sister he had been protecting since young. When did this happen? Why didn't he know about it? Chapter 373. The moment Yunjian looked down, Yunyi was already grabbing Ce's collar. Startled, she said quickly, "Go, he didn't." "Xiao Jian, tell me the truth. Did he bully you? If he did, I won't go easy on him." Yunyi was enraged as his grip on Ce's collar tightened. Ce, on the other hand, did not look like he was going to fight Yunyi at all. Yunjian knew that if Ce wanted to fight, Yunyi would not even be able to touch his collar. He really didn't. "I was willing to do it." Yunjian shook her head at Yunyi. To put Yunyi's mind at ease, she continued, "Go, I'm so good. How can I be bullied?" Yunjian sounded a little guilty. She was good, but she really could not do anything to Ce. Once Yunyi thought about it and realized that his younger sister was indeed skilled and did not look like she would be bullied, he let it go and looked down, calming down instantly. Ce was only slightly taller than Yunyi, so Yunyi released his grip at once after hearing Yunjian's explanation. "When did you guys start?" Yunyi had the right to ask when his younger sister, whom he had been protecting since young, was snatched away. "Not too long ago." Yunjian answered Yunyi like an obedient younger sister. Yunjian felt warm inside. She was no longer alone. It felt good to have family protecting her. "I'm telling you, no matter who you are, even if you're God or the Jade Emperor, don't let me find out that you're bullying my younger sister. Otherwise, I'll kill you even if I have to die." Yunyi suddenly turned to look at Ce and warned sternly, "If I bully her, you don't have to do anything. I'll be damned." Ce said sincerely. Yunjian was probably the only person in the world who could make Ce swear and curse him like that. Yunyi withdrew his aggressive attitude and chuckled before turning to look at Ce with a sly grin. "If it's you, I won't have to worry about Xiao Jian's future. Haha." As he spoke, Yunyi laughed heartily and led the way. What did he mean? Yunjian mulled over her brother's words before she blushed. Could it be that her brother had seen Ce's character from the start? "Xiao Jian, brother-in-law, why are you still standing there? Where's the car? Hurry, I'm numb from the cold." Yunyi, who had walked some distance away, suddenly realized that she did not know where to go, so she turned to call out to her brother. Hearing Yunyi calling Ce brother-in-law, Yunjian blushed again. "Let's go." Ce pressed his lips into a smirk and grabbed Yunjian's hand with one hand to lead the way. Leading Yunjian and Yunyi, he came to an eye-catching Rolls-Royce sedan not far away. "Let's go." Ce tilted his head and told them. He arranged for Yunjian and Yunyi to sit in the back seat, while he sat in the front passenger seat. Ce did not drive his Lamborghini here. The person who drove the Rolls-Royce was Adam, who had settled down here. "Drive," Ce told Adam after they got into the car. "Yes." Adam nodded, but he still saw Yunjian's men's jacket in the back seat through the rearview mirror. This cotton-padded jacket was a rare birthday gift from Shuang, and he hadn't even had the chance to wear it once. Chapter 374. The aggrieved Adam drove the group home with a dark expression. On the way, Yunjian told Yunyi as much as she could about the fact that she was new cruise's director. She did not hold anything back from the beginning. However, she kept one thing to herself, which was that the funds she used to start new cruise were all from a bank loan. It was not that Yunyi did not believe her. Instead, he was convinced and accepted Yunjian's identity. Everything seemed to have returned to normal. Yunjian spent her days in school, the military training camp, Falcon Hall's headquarters, home, and other places. Her days were quite comfortable. At the same time, Yunjian was planning to make a trip back to Kosha Mercenaries HQ. She had thought of the plan a long time ago, but had not had the time to put it into practice. Yunjian planned to make a trip back to Kosha Mercenaries HQ during the winter break after the final exams. 3 weeks passed very quickly, and the final exam came as scheduled. After 2 days of exams, all the students were disoriented. Yunjian was the only one who was still in good condition. Wow, Jianjian, I'm finally free. I'm about to vomit blood after 2 days of exam papers. I still have to listen to the principal's speech later. Just thinking about it makes me dizzy, but I can finally have a break. Haha, you have no idea how long I've been waiting for this day. Chun Sini's chatterbox voice rang in Yunjian's ears again. It had been a long time since she heard Chun Sini's sarcasm, but Yunjian was not annoyed at all today. Qingyu had gone back to her hometown recently, so she did not come for the exams. Qingyu's parents were still alive. She was already 10 years old when she was abducted into the organization. 10 years old was enough for her to remember things. Qingyu did not stay long in the organization before she was picked by Snake Lizard to play with poison. It was only after she mastered her poison skills that she followed Yunjian around. It was safe to say that Qingyu did not go through the cruel elimination training of an assassin. Since her parents were still alive, it was only natural for her to visit them once in a while. Hey Jianjian, are you listening to me? Chun Sini saw that Yunjian was looking away. She didn't know what she was thinking, so she waved her hand and asked, I'm listening. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and replied to Chun Sini. Chun Sini started chatting again. Winter vacation was coming. Normally, the students would pack their bags and go home after finishing their exams and listening to the principal's winter vacation speech. She didn't need to go to school anymore. As for the final results, Longmen No. 1 High School had the habit of sending every student's report card to their home in the form of a letter. This way, every student's parents would receive a report card. This was also a good idea, because in this way, some students who did not do well in school, but were afraid of being scolded by their parents would study hard. After Yunjian finished packing her bag, she saw Qingyu when she was leaving the classroom. Qingyu had applied for half a day's leave today. Yunjian was a student living in school, so Qingyu was here to pack Yunjian's bed and things to bring home. Just as Qingyu was packing Yunjian's bed and things, Yunjian's phone that had been silent for a long time vibrated all of a sudden. She glanced at Qingyu and walked out of the dorm to take out her phone to read the latest message. It was an urgent notice from Gujunjian. Chapter 375. Gujunjian usually did not send text messages. Therefore, under such circumstances, for Gujunjian to send a text message, it must be something very important. Yunjian turned off her phone and went back to the dorm to see Qingyu packing everything on her bed into a woven bag. Qingyu was struggling to walk out with the bag in her hands. Mom, let me do it. Yunjian went over and snatched the bag from Qingyu. Xiaojian, Mom can carry it. Qingyu called out when she saw Yunjian snatching the bag from her. I'll do it. Yunjian grinned and said to Qingyu before heading out with the bag in one hand. Mom will carry your bag then. Otherwise, give it back to me. Qingyu went over to take the bag from Yunjian's shoulder and insisted on carrying it. The bag was light, and Yunjian did not force it. The bag she was carrying was heavy, but it was nothing to her. In comparison, Yunjian was most satisfied with the motherly love she had now. After bringing everything home, Yunjian hurriedly told Qingyu that there was an emergency in the military before she headed out. Qingyu did not object to Yunjian's status as a member of the Advanced Special Forces, but she wanted Yunjian to put her safety first. This was the most basic request a mother had for her child. Xiaojian, bring this pancake with you. You can have it on the way. It's dinner time now, you can't go hungry. Qingyu caught up to Yunjian when she saw her leaving in a hurry and stuffed the pancake she had baked into Yunjian's hand. Thank you, Mom. Yunjian stuck out her tongue and smiled. Silly child, what are you thanking me for? We're family, so there's no need to be so formal. Qingyu replied with a smile. Yunjian nodded and left with a smile. After leaving the house, she went to the parking lot not far from Falcon Hall's headquarters. Her Ferrari sports car had always been parked here. Yin Jian got into the Ferrari sports car. She sped up and the car sped off like a bolt of lightning. Soon they drove past the streets. In the military training camp, Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, and the others were already standing in a row. Yin Jian sped to the outside of the military training camp. She ran inside and stood in line. If one took a closer look, they would see traces of the pancake on the corner of Yin Jian's mouth. At this moment, other than Yin Jian, Chu Ning, and the rest, there were also many veterans from the Special Forces standing at the side. Some were even official members of the Advanced Special Forces. Gu Junjian stood at the front of the group. His brows were tightly furrowed as he stared at the crowd. Is everyone here? Everyone report your numbers. Gu Junjian shouted. Then, the group reported their numbers. After Gu Junjian verified the number of people, he cut to the chase. The mission this time is very urgent. That's why I suddenly called all of you to the military. Gu Junjian frowned and said with a serious expression. Then he continued. This morning, a priceless antique was stolen from the Zhe Province Museum. The thief is an internationally renowned thief who is skilled in martial arts. This antique is our Z country's national treasure. If it's stolen, it's not just the treasure that's lost, but also the dignity of the Z country. That's why I called all of you here today to get this item back. Chapter 376. Gu Yunjian's words were masculine and righteous, coupled with the heroic bearing of a soldier. Even though Gu Junjian was already middle-aged, it did not change his identity as the leader of the Advanced Special Forces. His words made everyone present feel a deep sense of oppression, except for Yin Jian. Report. Is the mission going to be carried out immediately? Leader Lu Shiyan asked. Gu Junjian glanced over and nodded. That's right. I'll be sending 3 teams to Country A to retrieve the stolen antiques. 3 teams meant that there were members from 3 teams. Usually, a team was made up of 7 to 8 people. Yin Jian's team of 7 was considered one team. Sending 3 teams to carry out the mission showed that Gu Junjian really valued this mission. After Gu Junjian finished speaking, he pointed at the members of the other 2 teams. The 2 groups he was referring to were all Advanced Special Forces soldiers and veterans. Their abilities were the pioneers among the Advanced Special Forces, and they were the cream of the crop. When Gu Junjian pointed at them, it meant that those 2 teams had been included in the 3 teams heading to Country A for the mission. Finally, Gu Yunjian's hand stopped at Yin Jian's team. Then, Gu Junjian said to Yin Jian's team of 7, Get ready. We'll depart to Country A in 30 minutes. I'll inform your family members one by one. Also, there are 7 people in your team. You've only given yourselves code names. Now think of a name for your team. Tell me in 30 minutes. Now go equip your weapons. This time, Gu Junjian wanted Yin Jian's team of 7 to be fully armed. The mission this time was far more difficult than the previous one. The reason why Gu Junjian did not send veterans was that Yin Jian's team of 7 had completed the mission in a shocking amount of time. This mission should not have been assigned to Yin Jian's team of 7 rookies, but it was still assigned to them. This showed how much Gu Junjian valued Yin Jian's team of 7. Yin Jian and the others entered the weapons room. This time, they weren't only allowed to choose one weapon. They were fully equipped, official Special Forces equipment. After equipping the equipment, they were no stranger to it. After the previous mission ended, Gu Junjian had increased the difficulty of the mission. Everything was done according to the standard of the Advanced Special Forces. This was both an honor and torture. These days, other than Yin Jian, everyone else was exhausted. But all in all, now is the time to check the results. Hey, let's quickly discuss. What should we name our team? Hee, how about my code name, Thunderbolt Squad? Chu Xiangnan laughed heartily as he spoke. Bah, that's so unpleasant to hear. Absolutely not. Chu Ning refuted Chu Xiangnan. Let the captain take it, Fang Sharan suddenly said. Me? I can't do it. Why don't you think about it, Yin Jian? Lu Shiyan hurriedly waved his hands. He kicked the ball of thinking of a team name to Yin Jian. Kings. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes and said, What? The others were stunned. Team Monarch I the unique and unique. Yin Jian brushed away the hair that was covering her eyebrows and said, "That's a good name." Chu Ning suddenly laughed and clapped her hands. She was the first to agree. We'll choose this name then." Captain Lu Shiyan nodded. Since the captain had spoken, the others naturally had no objections. Team Monarch I, the unique and unique. Like a king, they ruled the world and stood at the top of the world. Who could bully them? Kill without mercy. Yin Jian pursed her lips. Chapter 377. Country A was Country Z's neighbor, bordering Country Z. However, due to the land route, it took them quite some time to reach Country Z. The mission this time was rather risky, which was why Gu Junjian had mentioned it before they came. However, no matter how risky the mission was, no one wanted to quit. Country A was a country at war, so its economy could not be compared to Country Z. Moreover, Country A's security was poor, so it was common for people to kill people with knives on the streets. Considering that there were more than 20 people in Team 3, Gu Junjian arranged for a large bus to take them all the way to Country A. The bus was 2 stories high, with seats on the upper floor and the lower floor. Chu Ning and the rest were fresh to them, so they walked up and down the bus quite a bit along the way. "This bus is so cool, it's 2 stories high. It's just like our house, it's like a moving house." Chu Ning jumped up and down, sitting beside Yun Jian from time to time and exclaiming. Yun Jian, on the other hand, sat obediently on the window seat on the second floor of the bus. She looked out of the window, pursing her red lips, as if she was thinking about something. Because it was a big bus on the second floor, there were many seats. There were only about 20 people in total, so they sat in different places. In short, where there was no one sitting, one could sit anywhere. Yun Jian and the other 7 members of Team Monarch sat separately on the upper and lower floors. Chu Ning walked up and down the stairs. She left the seat beside Yun Jian and ran to the seat on the first floor. Yun Jian only smiled, criticizing in her heart. What a child who loves to walk. Due to the long journey, although Country A was a neighboring country to Country Z, it was no longer within Country Z. Therefore, there was still a distance to travel from Zhe province through many provinces. Many of them had already closed their eyes to rest. After all, it was another test of life and death in Country A. Every mission had its risks. Yun Jian closed her eyes and rested for a while. Yun Jian had just closed her eyes for less than 15 minutes, when a loud noise came from the first floor of the bus. Yun Jian frowned and opened her beautiful eyes. However, she heard a thunderous roar from the first floor of the bus. F***CK, what are you so proud of? Aren't you newbies who just joined the army? What can you do? Yun Jian had just heard that when footsteps came from the stairs leading to the second floor. It was Chu Ning who rushed up to Yun Jian and told her anxiously, Yun Jian, go take a look. Chu Xiangnan is arguing with the other teams. The other teams were naturally the other 2 teams apart from Team Monarch. Yun Jian, naturally, she could not pretend that nothing had happened. She stood up and followed Chu Ning from the second floor to the first floor. The first floor was already in an uproar. In front of Chu Xiangnan, a man in his 20s or 30s was being held back by his companions. He was yelling at Chu Xiangnan. You're just a bunch of newbies who just joined the team. Do you really think you're so important? Didn't you just complete a mission once? The man's tone was not to be underestimated. The man had a rough appearance. Yun Jian could tell at a glance that the man who was yelling at Chu Xiangnan was a member of the other team. Chapter 378. Xiao Weiming was a member of another team called Champ Squad. At the same time, he was already 29 years old, nearing his 30s. Even though he was not particularly old, he had been in the special forces for quite a number of years. He had carried out quite a number of boss missions, but he had never been promoted. Xiao Weiming and Chu Xiangnan were at each other's throats, but Xiao Weiming's emotions were more intense than Chu Xiangnan's. If not for Xiao Weiming's teammates holding him back, he would probably have started fighting with Chu Xiangnan. You called us rookies. What right do you have to say that? Chu Xiangnan's voice sounded a little high-pitched. Unlike his usual cheeky self, Chu Xiangnan seemed to be defending his sovereignty as he retorted fearlessly at Xiao Weiming. Are all the rookies nowadays as arrogant as Team Monarch? Do you think you can ride all over us old team members, just because you've completed an outstanding mission? Let me tell you, brat. When we were majestic, you were still drinking milk in your mother's arms. Xiao Weiming raised his head and shouted at Chu Xiangnan, refusing to back down. What's going on? What's going on? Yun Jian had just gone down to the first floor when she saw Chu Xiangnan and Xiao Weiming shouting at each other. Before she could say anything, a strong voice came from behind her. A middle-aged man in his late 40s followed Yun Jian down the stairs from the second floor and spoke sternly. This stern and righteous middle-aged man was the captain of Champ Squad, Yu Fengcheng. Once Yu Fengcheng appeared, he had a strong presence. As soon as he spoke, Xiao Weiming, a member of Champ Squad under Yu Fengcheng, immediately settled down. Captain, this group of rookies is really cocky. They were bragging about their abilities just now. I just didn't like them and said a few words, and they yelled at me. Xiao Weiming complained to Yu Fengcheng. Yu Fengcheng was already in his 40s. He believed that he had plenty of experience, so when he swept his gaze over the crowd, he had a condescending attitude. Yu Fengcheng didn't look at Xiao Weiming. Instead, he looked at Chu Xiangnan and raised his voice. Where's your captain? Tell him to come out and talk to me. Yun Jian was standing beside Yu Fengcheng. She glanced at Yu Fengcheng from the corner of her eyes, and there was a hint of color in her eyes. But Yun Jian didn't say anything. I'm the captain. Lu Shiyan pushed aside the crowd and walked out. I don't care what your team members think, but when we're out on a mission, we must prioritize teamwork. You're all new recruits, so we veterans will give you some leeway in certain aspects. After all, you're still young and full of vigor, Yu Fengcheng said without any hesitation. Yu Fengcheng paused for a moment before continuing to speak to Lu Shiyan. In fact, his words were meant for all Team Monarch members. Young man, don't be complacent just because you've achieved something. There's always someone better than you. Don't forget that there's always someone better than you out there. With these few sentences, Yu Fengcheng's meaning was very clear. He had obviously heard about the mission Yun Jian's team of 7 went on previously. Back then, Yun Jian's team of 7 carried out a very difficult mission, but they completed it in less than half a day. News of that had already spread among the special forces. Yu Fengcheng's words were clearly aimed at Yun Jian's team, and he was sending them a very straightforward message. You may have some ability, but don't think too highly of yourself. Although Lu Shiyan was also a captain, he was at most in his 20s. In front of the experienced Yu Fengcheng, he lacked some boldness. Therefore Lu Shiyan hummed a sincere Alright, that's all. Disperse, disperse. Don't make such a big fuss over such a small matter in the future. Yu Fengcheng said with a wave of his hand. As a result, the people who had gathered around also dispersed. Bah, you'd better remember this. Xiao Weiming spat at Chu Xiangnan and walked away. Chapter 379. Usually, when members quarreled with each other, their respective captains would step in to mediate. This time was no exception. Therefore, Yun Jian merely watched from the side without saying a word. By the time Yu Fengcheng represented Champ Squad to speak to Team Monarch's captain, Lu Shiyan, the situation was more or less settled. Even if Yu Fengcheng shared Xiao Weiming's dissatisfaction with Yun Jian's Team Monarch, he would only criticize Yun Jian, and the rest in a tactful manner. He would not be like Xiao Weiming, who was stubbornly clashing with Chu Xiangnan in a fit of rage. Moreover, with Yu Fengcheng's tone, the matter was resolved. When Xiao Weiming returned to his seat in a huff, Chu Ning ran over to help Chu Xiangnan, who was still fuming, to the second floor of the bus. They were separated from Xiao Weiming, who was still on the first floor. When they were on the way to the second floor, Chu Ning even called out to Yun Jian. Yun Jian, you're here too? Yun Jian nodded and followed them to the second floor of the bus. When Yun Jian went upstairs, she heard Xiao Weiming's mocking laughter. Look at those Team Monarch members. All of them have skinny arms and legs. I don't mean to say this, but they must have been lucky to complete the previous mission so smoothly. TSK, these newbies, what kind of quality do they have? His voice was fading in the end. By then, Yun Jian had returned to the second floor of the bus. This is pissing me off. Chu Xiangnan could not help but blurt out before he even sat down. What's going on? I was just admiring the scenery outside the window. Why did you guys start arguing? Chu Ning asked Chu Xiangnan with a frown. Yun Jian had already found an empty seat and sat behind Chu Xiangnan and Chu Ning. I was just bragging to Hong Dork about Team Monarch's dominance earlier. I'm just bragging about myself, and I'm not bothering anyone. In the end, that guy just couldn't stand me. It's fine that he scolded me, but he even called us Team Monarch rookies. He said that the missions we completed back then were all due to luck. I'm so pissed off. Chu Xiangnan spoke a long string of words, but at this time, his mood was extremely complicated. Looking at his expression, one could tell that Chu Xiangnan was really angry. Chu Ning stopped bickering with Chu Xiangnan and spoke up for Chu Xiangnan instead. Alright, don't be angry. When we reach Country A, we'll try our best to snatch back the antiques before they do. When the time comes, we'll rely on our abilities to humiliate them. In fact, although Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were usually like enemies when they were together, scolding each other and teasing each other, they would always help each other when they encountered a problem. Yun Jian leaned her head lazily with both hands behind her back. She looked at the two people sitting in front of her and smiled with her eyes narrowed. Since there was nothing else for her to do, Yun Jian closed her eyes again and rested for a while. The exclusive two-story bus from Z country to a country didn't stop moving. The scenery outside the window changed again and again. Yun Jian sat in the bus and rested for a long time. The bus stopped moving at night. After all, it was not safe to drive at night, and the driver needed to rest as well. With that, when Yun Jian and the rest arrived in Country A, it was already 6 or 7 o'clock the next night. At night, Yun Jian and the rest rested on the bus seats, leaning against the seat. It was not good to sleep like that, so when they arrived in Country A, they immediately checked into a hotel. That was because the people in Country A did not speak Mandarin or English, but their own language. Therefore, when they entered the hotel, the three teams, more than 20 people, realized that there was a language barrier. Wanting to give it a try, Yu Fengqing scanned the crowd like the leader of the group and asked, "Who among you can speak Country A's language?" When Yu Fengqing scanned the group, he did not even look at Yun Jian and the rest. In his opinion, Yun Jian and the rest were new recruits who did not have any achievements. How could they know Country A's language? Chapter 380. Yu Fengqing glanced at his own champ squad, then looked at another member called Flying Dragon Squad, and asked them a question. Yu Fengqing did not care about Yun Jian's Team Monarch at all. He did not even look at them when he was questioning them. Hence, when Yun Jian's melodious voice rang out, it came from behind Yu Fengqing. Yu Fengqing was stunned. He turned around and stared at Yun Jian, like everyone else in Champ Squad and Flying Dragons. He raised his brows in disbelief. "You know how to speak? Are you sure?" His tone was filled with disbelief. If it were anyone else, Yu Fengqing and the rest might have believed her. However, Yun Jian was the youngest among them. Could she really learn Country A's language at such a young age? Country A didn't speak English. Yun Jian did not care about the disbelief in Yu Fengqing and the rest's eyes. She walked to the front desk of the hotel and knocked on the table with her fingertips. Then, she looked at the Country A lady at the front desk and spoke in a language that was almost the same as a Country A person's. "Hello, beautiful lady. We have a total of 21 people. Please give us 7 rooms." Yun Jian and the rest had a total of 21 people. 7 rooms would be just right for 3 people each. Yun Jian, Chu Ning, and Jiang Weiwei were all girls. Hence, they could share a room. "Alright, beautiful lady." The Country A lady at the front desk gave Yun Jian a beautiful smile and issued the room tickets. The moment Yun Jian spoke to the Country A lady, Yu Fengqing and the rest were completely stunned. Even if Yu Fengqing and the rest did not know Country A's language, they could tell that Yun Jian's accent was the same as the Country A lady at the front desk. Moreover, the Country A lady at the front desk even replied to Yun Jian. Obviously, she understood what Yun Jian meant. Yun Jian could really speak Country A's language. Yu Fengqing and the rest were stunned, especially Yu Fengqing. He watched as Yun Jian walked back with the receipt for the room. Once he thought of how he looked down on Yun Jian. His face darkened as though he had fallen into a cesspool. You can check in now. Yun Jian waved the receipt and room key in her hand. Country A's hotel registration did not require complicated procedures. Moreover, Country A's security was not comprehensive. Hence, Yun Jian had already gotten the receipt and key after paying. The key was the hotel's key. However, due to the backward economy, it was different from China's. Due to Yun Jian's presence, everyone returned to their rooms swiftly. Once they were back in the hotel room, Chu Ning collapsed on the bed and chuckled at Yun Jian. Hehe, Yun Jian, you're really something. Just how ugly was the expression of the leader of the champ squad just now? Serves them right for looking down on us. Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were used to having their emotions written all over their faces. Yun Jian only smiled faintly. Knock, knock, knock. Just then there was a knock on the door. I'll go open the door. Jiang Weiwei had just put down her luggage when Chu Ning jumped up from the bed and ran to open the door barefooted. The door opened. The person standing outside was none other than the captain, Lu Shiyin. Pack up. We'll gather in the lobby on the first floor. The three of us will discuss the plan together. Lu Shiyin was here to inform them. Okay. Got it. Chu Ning gestured at Lu Shiyin. Yun Jian walked around the room. She did not take off her shoes. Hearing Lu Shiyin's words, she immediately followed him out. The lobby on the first floor was a place that this relatively high-end hotel provided for travelers to relax and chat. By the time Yun Jian, Chu Ning, and Jiang Weiwei went downstairs, Yu Fengqing and the rest were already standing in the lobby. Tisk, women are so troublesome. Xiao Weiming felt that the matter was not big enough, so he shouted loudly. Chapter 381. Xiao Weiming's provocative words had no effect on Yun Jian. At the same time, Chu Xiangnan, Chu Ning, and the rest automatically blocked Xiao Weiming's words and ignored him. Xiao Weiming was directly ignored. He snorted, and in the end he did not make a sound. All right, everyone quiet down. Yu Fengqing acted as the leader of the three squads again. He slapped the coffee table in front of him and shouted. The moment Yu Fengqing spoke, everyone quieted down. All three squads are here for the same mission, so we have to work together. Moreover, the target of this mission is the internationally renowned thief. Yu Fengqing expressed his opinion. So you're saying that all three squads have to work together? Someone asked. Yu Fengqing continued to express his opinion, and what he said seemed to make sense. Yes, all three squads will work together to catch that thief and get the item back. So during this period, I hope that all three squads can work together without any disputes and work together to complete the mission. That was Yu Fengqing's opinion. What's more, Yu Fengqing's words were reasonable. Even he was impressed by himself. Lu Shiyin frowned and didn't say anything. I don't agree. Just as the group of people were almost done with their discussion, a clear female voice rang out again, interrupting everyone. Yu Fengqing's eyebrows twitched when he heard the voice. He turned to look for the source of the voice, and saw Yun Jian standing in the same spot. She pursed her red lips, and looked at everyone's gazes gradually falling on her. After a few seconds of silence, Yun Jian repeated, I don't agree. We have 3 squads with 21 people. If all 3 squads walk together, don't you think it's too conspicuous? It was like telling a thief who had stolen an antique that they were here to catch him. So I can't accept it. Yun Jian's words immediately attracted the rebuttal of everyone present. What we advocate is to work together. You're trying to be independent. Someone from the champ squad couldn't stand it anymore, and shouted at Yun Jian. Perhaps it was because of Yun Jian's young age. Even though she spoke fluent Country Z's language, no one was convinced. That's right. Young lady, you're still too inexperienced and inexperienced. We've completed at least 100 missions. Which one of them wasn't done as a team? We're on a mission now. This isn't the time to let your tongue run wild. Yu Fengqing had just suffered a setback. He wanted to poke Yun Jian's spirit, so he refuted Yun Jian with the tone of an elder. Yun Jian only chuckled. especially when you said that he had completed at least 100 missions. He had almost laughed out loud. But she didn't laugh in the end. She turned to look at Lu and the others and asked, "What about you guys? Do you want to work with them or with me?" Yun Jian ignored Yu Fengcheng, but her words were obvious. She was asking Lu Shiyin and the others if they wanted to complete the mission with her, or follow Yu Fengcheng's arrangement, and complete the mission with Yu Fengcheng and the others. Puffed young lady, even a fool would know what to choose. You can either leave on your own or come with us. The person from Champ Squad who had spoken just now mocked Yun Jian again. Yu Fengcheng also raised his head high. From what he could see, Lu Shiyin and the others would definitely follow them. After all, Yun Jian was just a teenager who had yet to reach adulthood. Even if she was good, where could she go? But the team that Yu Fengcheng led was different. He had led his own team and completed countless missions. There was no way Lu Shiyin would take Team Monarch and leave with a brat like Yun Jian. Chapter 382. What? Yu Fengcheng thought that since Lu Shiyin was the leader of Team Monarch, Lu Shiyin would definitely choose to go with him. He did not expect Lu Shiyin to choose to go with Yun Jian instead. "I'll go with Yun Jian too," Chu Ning said without hesitation after Lu Shiyin. "Me too. Me too." Then, other than Lu Shiyin, the other 5 voices followed without hesitation. However, everyone's choice was the same. This included Jiang Weiwei, who was not at odds with Yun Jian in the beginning. She had chosen Yun Jian's side with a determined voice. You. Yu Fengcheng was so angry that his hands trembled. He swallowed hard and looked at Yun Jian and the rest. Finally he said, "Fine you guys. I'm sincerely inviting you to cooperate with us, because you're new to the game. But since you don't appreciate it, so be it. Young people, you're still young and hot-headed after all. If you're on your own." Yu Fengcheng waved his hand and left in a huff. However, Yu Fengcheng still believed that what he said was right. At the same time, he planned to wipe his eyes and watch Yun Jian and the rest fail, because he chose not to work with them today. Yun Jian did not expect Lu Shiyin and the rest to believe her so much. She only smiled and looked at them without saying a word. However, everything was wrapped up in her words. Once Yu Fengcheng left, the 2 teams split up. However, it was certain that Yu Fengcheng had convinced Flying Dragon Squad. The current situation was that Champ Squad and Flying Dragon Squad had started working together. After rejecting Yu Fengcheng's invitation, Yun Jian, Chu Ning, and Jiang Weiwei gathered in Lu Shiyin's room at night. The 7 of them began to discuss the plan. Coincidentally, while they were discussing the plan, Yun Jian received a message from Gu Junjian. The message on the phone was very simple, but it was a very useful message because there was a clue written on it. The thief who stole the antique was last seen at Tiandi Canyon in Country A's F City. The Tiandi Canyon was a famous scenic spot in Country A. In the canyon, there were dozens of kilometers of land. Looking from afar, other than large rocks, there was not a single blade of grass. Moreover, the canyon was uneven, winding and steep. F*CK. Why would the thief go to such a place after stealing the antique? After reading the message, Chu Xiangnan could not help cursing under his breath. Probably because he has nothing better to do, haha. Chu Ning laughed. Tiandi Canyon. Yun stood up and looked at the group. It will take 2 hours. We'll leave tomorrow morning. We'll rest and rest. We'll sleep from now on. We'll wake up at 4 tomorrow morning. Yun stood up, looked at the group and spoke. 4 o'clock. Oh my god. Chu Xiangnan complained. We sleep. Yun Jian and the other 2 returned to their rooms. Yun Jian could sleep at any time, and Jiang Weiwei could adjust her sleeping time. Chu Ning, on the other hand, rolled around for a while before falling asleep. The next morning, there was no light at all. It was so dark that one could not even see their own fingers. Chu Ning was dragged out of bed by Yun Jian. Other than Yun Jian, the rest were still sleepy. However, with Yun Jian leading the group, they quickly went to the nearest bus station and boarded the earliest bus to F City. It was already 6 o'clock when Yu Fengcheng and the rest woke up. He thought about it and decided to look for Yun Jian. Yun Jian was the only one among them who could speak Country's language. When Yu Fengqing knocked on Yun Jian and the rest's door, he was stunned to find that the room was empty. However, Yu Fengqing and the rest knew that Yun Jian and the rest must have gone to F City first. Chapter 383. When Yu Fengqing and the rest boarded the bus to Tiandi Canyon in F City, Yun Jian and the rest had already alighted. The Tiandi Canyon in F City was actually a scenic spot in Country A. Within the Tiandi Canyon, there was no dense vegetation within a 100-mile radius. Even if there was, it was scattered across a vast area. In short, it was basically impossible to see a dense forest in the Tiandi Canyon. Although the Tiandi Canyon was a scenic spot, there were not many people. Moreover, the scenic spot was free to enter and exit, so there was no need to buy a ticket to enter. Due to the vastness of the Tiandi Canyon, if a person were to walk in, they would not be able to walk out even after a few days. Therefore, Yun Jian and the rest negotiated and rented a jeep from a car rental agency. The rental car was not expensive as Yun Jian had given them quite a bit of Country A's currency before the mission. Moreover, Yun Jian knew Country A's language, so they were able to rent a car very quickly. The jeep was quite big, so the 7 of them could barely squeeze into it. Feng Xiaoran was driving, and his driving skills were not bad. Moreover, in such a vast Tiandi Canyon, there was no need to drive very fast if they were to drive aimlessly. Yun Jian, what should we do next? Even if that master thief is here, this place is so vast. If we keep searching aimlessly, it'll be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Lu Shiyan turned to ask Yun Jian out of habit. Although Lu Shiyan was the captain of Team Monarch, he had unknowingly treated Yun Jian as the core, and would always ask for her opinion whenever something happened. The other members also unknowingly treated Yun Jian as the core, so Lu Shiyan as the captain and Hong Fan as the vice-captain were just decorations. Head south. Yun Jian turned to look out of the window, pursing her red lips as she said, "Head south." Feng Xiaoran was still driving the jeep. When he heard Yun Jian's words, he immediately turned the steering wheel and headed south. "Yun Jian, why are we heading south?" Just as Lu Shiyan was about to speak, Chu Ning, who had nothing to do along the way, snatched the opportunity to speak. Chu Ning took the initiative to ask the question that was on everyone's mind. This heaven and earth Grand Canyon extended in all directions, and it was a rocky mountain range that stretched as far as the eye could see. When the car drove on the road, it was also undulating. Sometimes, it would even pass through 2 mountains. Fortunately, they had brought a compass, so they could distinguish north from south. However, everyone had a question: why did they head south? Even Yun Jian and the others could not find out where the thief was in the Tiandi Canyon. They only knew that the thief was last seen here. How could Yun Jian be so sure that the thief master had gone south? Although everyone was suspicious, even if they had taken the wrong path, they still had to follow Yun Jian. Yun Jian reached into the pocket of her newly bought long-down jacket and took out a map with a label and a very detailed introduction. She passed the map to Chu Ning, who was sitting beside her, and said to the rest, "I got this from the car rental place. It's a panoramic map of the Tiandi Canyon. Head south and there's a water source in the south. A water source means that there must be people living there. If we head in other directions, forget about a water source, we'll enter a desert area. Even if the thief wants to hide from us, can he avoid a water source? Can he not eat? Therefore, the south must be the path he must take." Chapter 384. After listening to Yun Jian's analysis, everyone felt that they had gained a lot of knowledge. There were indeed many maps of the nearby scenic spots in the car rental store, but apart from Yun Jian, no one else would bother to understand them. At the same time, no one would think of getting a map to look at. The map was actually universal. Although Lu Shiyan and the rest couldn't understand the words on it, they could still distinguish the coordinates on it. Moreover, most maps were in English. As for Yun Jian, the moment she arrived at the car rental store, she took a map and understood the terrain. She also knew how to analyze the terrain, and finally came to a conclusion. Actually, There were many things that no one could tell you the answer to, but you could find the answer from the environment. For example, that master thief. Unless he was courting death, he would go in the direction of human tracks. Without a doubt, the direction with human tracks was the south, because it could be seen from the map that apart from the south, if one went in any other direction, they would end up in a boundless desert. Since we know the direction, Fang Xiaoran, speed up the car. Chu Xiangnan also happily stepped forward and interjected. No need. Yun Jian immediately retorted Chu Xiangnan. She pursed her red lips and continued. Drive slowly, don't be anxious. We don't have to alert the enemy. In the eyes of that master thief, we are just a group of tourists who came to the Tiandi Grand Canyon for a vacation. After saying that, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. However, everyone understood what she meant. She meant that before confirming who the master thief was, everyone should pretend that they were just a group of students who came to the Tiandi Grand Canyon for a vacation. Fang Xiaoran drove the jeep at a very slow speed. After driving for about an hour, Yun Jian looked at the scenery outside the window and suddenly saw that it had changed. It was no longer a barren wasteland or a large piece of rock. Instead, there was a small upstream river, and on the other side of the river was a large village. Everyone was delighted. Fang Xiaoran didn't turn his head but asked Yun Jian. Yun Jian, are we going into the village? Yes, let's find a place to rest and stay for the night. Yun Jian nodded. Thus the group entered the village. The men in country A were used to wearing a headscarf on their heads, while the women used a headscarf that covered their entire head, except for their facial features. This was the custom of country A. Yun Jian and the others got off the car, and Yun Jian went to the village head to seek shelter. The village chief and the villagers expressed a strong welcome to the guests from afar. In the end, the village chief divided Yun Jian and the others into 4 groups, and arranged them to live in 4 different households in the village. Yun Jian was arranged to live alone in a seemingly poor family. This family was very hospitable. The hostess was in her 40s, and her name was Adia. Adia had a daughter who was 2 years younger than Yun Jian. Her name was Maiboba. Adia's husband had already passed away, so Adia had to raise her child Maiboba alone. Life was very difficult for her. In spite of it, Adia expressed the strongest welcome to Yun Jian, an outsider. In less than half a day, Adia's daughter Maiboba had already become familiar with Yun Jian. In addition, there was no language barrier between Yun Jian and the people in country A, so Maiboba seemed to like her sister very much. Maiboba shook Yun Jian's hand and looked at Yun Jian expectantly. Big sister, can you accompany me to the river to catch fish? Yun Jian also liked this little sister who was 2 years younger than her. She nodded and followed Maiboba to the river in the village. There were already many children of Maiboba's age standing by the river. All the children were catching fish in the most primitive way, holding a long, sharpened bamboo pole, standing in the shallow and clear river, looking at the fish swimming back and forth, and directly poking them with the bamboo pole. Maiboba had just taken Yun Jian's hand to the river when they were surrounded by a group of careless boys. Chapter 385. Because she didn't have a father, she had been bullied by these naughty children since she was a child. Originally, Maiboba had been bullied to the point of numbness, but in front of Yun Jian, the elder sister she had just met, she was surrounded and mocked. Maiboba's face immediately turned pale. We're just here to slack off, don't be like this. Maiboba's face was pale. She was afraid that Yun Jian would ignore her, because she was bullied by these boys. So she looked at the group of boys around her with pleading eyes and said. Yun Jian's eyes flashed. Maiboba had been bullied since she was a child. Because she didn't have a father, the naughty children around her had always made fun of her, and even made up poems about her life experience. Maiboba was not as alone as she was now when she was a child. She used to have friends, but later, her friends were scared away by these boys, and were no longer willing to play with her. When Yun Jian moved into Maiboba's house, Maiboba was half surprised and half happy. Especially when Yun Jian didn't refuse to make friends with her. Maiboba's heart was overflowing with joy. But now, the actions of these boys made Maiboba afraid. She was afraid that because of these boys, the elder sister she had just met would not be willing to make friends with her. Slack off. Haha, with just the two of you. At this time, a heavy sarcastic voice suddenly came. A 16 or 17-year-old boy with a dark complexion, but a decent appearance pushed the crowd aside and stood in front of my boba and Yun Jian. This 16 or 17-year-old youth seemed to be the king of this group of boys, because when this youth appeared, the other boys all cheered and made way for him. Jilihang. My boba looked at the 16 or 17-year-old boy with some fear and couldn't help exclaiming. The boy called Jilihang stretched out his hand, raised his head, hooked Yun Jian with his finger, and then said arrogantly, I heard that you're a foreigner and my boba's new friend? Ha! How dare you be friends with my boba without my consent? Jilihang's tone was very tough. That feeling of I am the master made Yun Jian narrow her eyes. Why not? Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She narrowed her eyes and replied in fluent country-y. Big sister, don't. Let's go. He's Jilihang, the overlord of our village. No one can challenge his dignity. Let's go. My boba tugged at Yun Jian's clothes and said with some fear. Yun Jian lowered her eyes and retracted her gaze. She did not intend to be nosy. She was here to carry out a mission. That godly thief could be around at any time. If she let her guard down, or if she showed off her skills, wouldn't she be luring the snake out of its hole? Just as Yun Jian and my boba turned around and took 2 steps, Jilihang's voice came from behind again. Hey, are you really leaving? However, Yun Jian ignored him. Jilihang was anxious. It was rare for him to meet a girl who was not afraid of him mentally. Purely out of curiosity, he wanted to stop Yun Jian. However, seeing that she did not move at all, Jilihang shouted again. Stop, stop, stop. Let's have a fishing competition. Let's see who can catch more fish in 10 minutes. If you win, I won't bully my boba anymore. How about it? And I promise that no one will bully her in the future. Really? Yun Jian heard Jilihang's words and instantly paused. She turned around and asked. Of course I Jilihang am a man. I never go back on my words. Jilihang patted his belly and promised. Then let's begin. Yun Jian's speed of change was unpredictable. Jilihang was also slightly stunned. However, when he thought that she was just a girl younger than him, he did not think much of it. Therefore, Jilihang immediately asked someone to bring 2 bamboo poles. He and Yun Jian each took a bamboo pole. When Lu Shiyin and the others met at their respective residences and walked across the river to find Yun Jian, they happened to see Yun Jian holding a bamboo pole and preparing to compete with Jilihang in fishing. Chapter 386. Yun Jian was not disturbed by the appearance of Lu Shiyin and Chu Xiangnan at all. At this time, she was already standing in the stream with Jilihang. Most streams in winter were bitterly cold, but strangely, the spring water of this stream did not make people feel cold at all. On the contrary, people standing in the stream would feel warm. It's starting, Jilihang said to Yun Jian with a bamboo pole in his hand, glancing at her. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. She narrowed her eyes and nodded to Jilihang with a bamboo pole that was sharp enough to stab a fish to death. Yun Jian, come on. Chu Ning and the others could not understand the shouts of the group of country A people, but Chu Ning waved at Yun Jian and cheered for her. Yun Jian kept her eyes squinted, staring at the bamboo pole in her hand. Big sister, come on. My boba also looked at Yun Jian gratefully. At the same time, she also raised her voice and shouted for Yun Jian in her Mandarin. Huh. Jilihang suddenly chuckled. A wicked smile that did not match his age climbed up the corners of his lips. Chi. Jilihang stabbed the bamboo pole in his hand into the stream and stabbed a small fish that was swimming freely. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and also stabbed the bamboo pole in her hand into the stream. It missed. Ha ha ha. It missed. Jilihang's group of friends chuckled at Yun Jian. Yun Jian's stab with the bamboo pole missed. Chu Ning and the others were also disappointed for a while. Yun Jian was not in a hurry. She lowered her head and did not show any expression. Hee hee. Jilihang also laughed. He laughed even more presumptuously, and at the same time, He stabbed the bamboo pole in the stream several times in a row. Chi 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 chi. 5 consecutive stabs. A fish appeared on the bamboo pole in Jiliheng's hand. It could be said that Jiliheng had never missed. He then looked at Yin Jian. She had also stabbed him a few times, but she didn't even manage to hit him once. Jiliheng's group of friends became even more excited. They began to shout arrogantly, Jiliheng, Jiliheng, Jiliheng. What's wrong with Yin Jian? Chu Xiangnan also frowned. He was a little disappointed that Yin Jian did not live up to his expectations. He looked as if he could not wait to replace Yin Jian and win. Shut up. Jiang Weiwei, who had been silent all this while, suddenly kicked Chu Xiangnan and growled at Chu Xiangnan. The others were also frightened by Jiang Weiwei's serious appearance, but they all frowned, not knowing what she was talking about. Jiang Weiwei furrowed her brows. She silently looked at Yun Jian, who seemed to be using all her strength to use the bamboo pole to prick the fish, but was unable to do so. She did it on purpose. But why? Not long after, the bamboo pole in Ji Jiheng's hand was full of fish. Ji Jiheng had already reached a new level of fishing. He was standing with his back facing Yun Jian. Another fish was successfully harvested by him. Yun Jian suddenly narrowed her eyes. She took out the butterfly knife from her pocket when Ji Jiheng completely let down his guard. She had already moved behind Ji Jiheng in a flash. She lifted her leg and kicked Ji Jiheng's back, sending him flying to the shore. At the same time, as everyone watched this sudden change in horror, Yun Jian had already arrived in front of Ji Jiheng. The butterfly knife in her hand did not wait for Ji Jiheng to react. She placed it on Ji Jiheng's neck. Outsider, what are you doing? You can't win the fishing competition. What are you doing to Ji Jiheng? The group of boys immediately shouted, Chu Xiangnan, and the others were also confused. Yin Jian, what are you doing? Even if you lose, just admit defeat. It's not like you can't afford to lose. Chu Xiangnan even opened his mouth and said. Yun Jian ignored everyone. She maintained her original posture and narrowed her eyes. The butterfly knife in her hand was even closer to Ji Jiheng's neck. Do you think I can't recognize you just because you've disguised yourself? Our famous thief god, Mr. Peter. Yin Jian looked at Ji Jiheng and said with a smile. Chapter 387. Yin Jian spoke in Chinese. So other than Chu Xiangnan and the others who were completely shocked, the group of boys from a country, including my boba, could not understand. However, this did not include Jiliheng, who was lying on the ground, who was also the thief Peter. After being recognized, Peter stopped pretending. He was not angry, nor did he fly into a rage because Yun Jian saw through him. Instead, he reached out to push away the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand and stood up. Needless to say, after being recognized, Peter was really shocked for a while. When he disguised himself as Jiliheng, even Jiliheng's mother could not recognize him. How could he be recognized by this young girl, who was not even 18 yet? Who are you? Since he stopped pretending, Peter reached out to pull off the human skin mask on his face. He looked at Yun Jian and asked. Under the mask was a face that was completely different from Jiliheng's. The face under the mask looked to be in his 20s. His skin was very tender, and there was a trace of handsomeness between his eyebrows. His nose was tall and straight, and he looked a bit like a mixed-race person. Yun Jian did not threaten him with the butterfly knife. She narrowed her eyes and smiled as she shouted at Peter, Your ancestor. F***ck, don't tell me you're. Peter heard Yun Jian's familiar words. He could not help but jump and shout while pointing at Yun Jian. The only person who could stand in front of him and call him his ancestor was that terrifying woman. Peter looked at Yun Jian in a daze. He gestured at Yun Jian and asked in surprise, why do you look completely different? Take a guess. Yun Jian crossed her arms. She did not look at Peter. Instead, she curved her red lips and smiled slightly. She did not recognize him at first, but in her eyes, Peter's disguise as Jiliheng was too flawed. First of all, she could see from Peter's face that there were creases on his face and around his ears. As for Peter's identity, first of all, he stole the antiques. Stealing antiques that were heavily guarded in Jia province was not a simple matter. At the very least, that was something only a world-class thief could do. Back then, Yun Jian knew a world-class thief who was good at stealing Peter. Another characteristic of Peter was that he loved to play. Just like just now, once Peter started playing the game of fishing, he couldn't stop. And Yun Jian took advantage of Peter's loss of vigilance to make her move. While Pete and Yun Jian were chatting happily and acknowledging each other, the boys around them were so frightened that they ran home crying for their mothers when they saw Pete, who suddenly tore off his human skin mask and changed his face. Lu Shiyin, Chu Xiangnan, and the others were completely dumbfounded. All of them had heard Yun Jian calling Pete thief god just now. This meant that Peter, who had suddenly changed his face, was the thief they had been looking for. But looking at the situation, could it be that Yun Jian knew him? Everyone was panic-stricken, but no one said anything. In fact, Yun Jian and Peter did know each other. That was something that happened in Yun Jian's previous life. This Peter was actually a world-famous thief. It was said that he had never failed to steal anything. But in fact, he had failed once. The reason was that the thing that Peter wanted to steal was also the target of Yun Jian's mission. Later on, the two of them met, and Yun Jian won directly by force. Before Yun Jian took the thing and ran away, Peter shouted at her. "Who the hell are you? How dare you steal from me?" "Your ancestor." Yun Jian replied with this sentence. In general, Peter's skills were not bad, but it was the first time he lost to a woman. So, he had a deep impression of Yun Jian. However, Peter didn't know about Yun Jian's other identities. He only knew that this woman, Yun Jian, was really terrible. The thing that he had stolen was clearly in his hands. But in the end, it was snatched away by Yun Jian. Chapter 388. Aya, my great-aunt. No wonder my eyelids have been twitching since this morning. Why did you come back to look for me? Oh my God. Don't tell me you want to take away the treasure that I worked so hard to steal again? Returning to reality, Peter clutched his chest exaggeratedly. He looked at Yun Jian, as if he was looking at the devil, and shouted at her. Lu Shiyin and the others were even more surprised when they saw this. Judging from Yun Jian and Peter's words and actions, they seemed to be very familiar with each other. However, Yun Jian pursed her red lips and smiled slightly. Then, she reached out her hand. You guessed right. Hand it over obediently. Peter retracted his hand and made a face as if he was about to die. Then he clutched his pocket tightly. Are you really going to take it away? There's no room for negotiation? No. Yun Jian's deep eyes flashed. She opened her mouth and didn't allow for any rebuttal. All right then. Peter could only reach out his hand and rummage through his pocket. Then, he reluctantly took out an emerald jade pendant and handed it to Yun Jian unwillingly. This emerald jade pendant was the one that was lost in the Zhe Province Museum. Before they came, Gu Junjian had shown Yun Jian and the others a photo of the lost antique. It was this emerald jade pendant. Although it was just a jade pendant, this jade pendant was actually an ancient relic left behind by a famous scholar in the Tang dynasty. It had been quite a few years since then. Naturally, it was worth a lot. Just like that, the mission is completed. Chu Xiangnan and the others stood where they were. They watched as Peter obediently handed the jade pendant to Yun Jian, without any resistance. All of them turned pale with fright. After all, Peter was an internationally renowned thief, wasn't he? He actually handed the antique jade pendant to Yun Jian just like that? This meant that the mission was successfully completed. Wasn't this mission supposed to be quite dangerous? Why did the thief obediently hand over the item as soon as Yun Jian showed up? Who exactly was Yun Jian? However, if Peter heard Chu Xiangnan and the others silently criticizing him for handing over the antique jade pendant to Yun Jian, he would be in deep trouble. Peter would definitely put his hands on his hips and shout at Chu Xiangnan and the others. When he fought with Yun Jian, both his arms were broken by Yun Jian. If Peter hadn't dodged quickly, his entire body would have been broken by Yun Jian. Peter swore that he would never meet such a terrifying woman again in his life. But this time, it was such a coincidence. All right, you can go now, Yun Jian said with a grin, looking at Pete. Peter wanted to cry but had no tears. He quickly packed up his things and ran away. His speed was even faster than a car. After Peter left, he wasn't a bad person. It didn't take long for him to release the real Geely Hunter. The real Geely Hung had tasted the feeling of being bullied by Peter. From then on, he repented and no longer bullied my boba and her group of weaklings. Yun Jian and the others stayed the night under the warm hospitality of the villagers. The next day, Fang Sharan drove the jeep and left. My boba sent Yun Jian and the others all the way to the entrance of the village until Yun Jian and the others could no longer be seen. This encounter was like a fleeting moment in life. Once they parted, it would be forever. After leaving the village, they returned along the same path. As soon as they returned to the crowded flat ground, they met Yu Fengcheng and the others who were still searching around the canyon, but to no avail. How dare you leave without saying a word? Do you know what kind of behavior this is? This is abandoning your companions and selfish behavior. What kind of future do you think you can have? You still want to rely on your own abilities to complete the mission. I think you're dreaming. Due to the language barrier, Yu Fengcheng and the others couldn't even rent a car. They had been walking since yesterday morning and were extremely tired. When he saw Yun Jian and the others, Yu Fengcheng rushed up and scolded them like an elder. In reality, he was resentful that Yun Jian knew Country A's language, but didn't team up with them. Chapter 389. Pack up what team? Return to the country? Wait a minute, mission completed? Yu Fengcheng was about to yell at Yun Jian, but after a few words, he caught what Yun Jian meant and held his tongue. In the next second, he was overwhelmed by shock. From Yu Fengcheng's perspective, no matter how capable Yun Jian was, there was no way she could lead Team Monarch to complete the mission successfully. Yu Fengcheng was not the only one who thought so. Everyone in the Champ Squad and Flying Dragons Squad shared the same thought. The difficulty of this mission was highly valued by their superiors. The importance Ge Junjian placed on this mission could be seen from the fact that he deployed the 3 best squads in the military to complete the mission together. There was no doubt that even if the Champ Squad and the Flying Dragon Squad joined forces, they still couldn't find the slightest trace of the godly thief who had stolen the antique. How long had it been? Yun Jian said that Team Monarch had completed the mission? Little girl, are you kidding? A rough-looking man from the Champ Squad asked Yun Jian arrogantly. The tone of this person's voice was filled with an air of complete disbelief. I think this bunch of newbies from Team Monarch have never learned anything except to brag. If the mission this time was so easy, why did Officer Ge send us 3 squads to complete it? To play monkeys? Xiao Weiming had a fight with Chu Xiongnan early in the morning, so he was now unhappy with the rest of Team Monarch. Yu Fengcheng thought the same when he heard what his own squad members said. Young people, it's good that you have a heart that's eager for success, but everything has to be done according to the facts. The mission this time isn't so easy. I saw that you guys went into the Tiandi Canyon and didn't find anything? I've said it before, we have to work together and work together. Yu Fengcheng's long-winded words came one after another. However, Yu Fengcheng and the others' intentions were clear. As for Yun Jian's claim that Team Monarch had found the antique, they remained unconvinced. Hey you guys! When Chu Xiongnan heard this, he was also anxious. He opened his mouth to say something, but was stopped by Yun Jian. Since you want to enter the Heaven and Earth Grand Canyon, then go ahead. We won't accompany you. Yun Jian only said this one sentence before she led everyone away. The attitude of Yu Fengcheng and his group disgusted Yun Jian, so she didn't even intend to say anything more. She directly called for Lu Shiyin and the others to leave with her. Seeing Yun Jian and the rest leave, Yu Fengcheng stomped his feet in anger. He even shouted at Yun Jian and the rest. Young and hot-blooded, not knowing what's good for him. Since that's the case, we'll leave on our own. Yu Fengcheng cursed in a low voice before leading his group into the Tiandi Grand Canyon. Yun Jian and her friends went back on their own and took the bus back. It was a long and bumpy ride before they finally made it back to Longmen City. After passing the jade pendant to Ge Junjian, it was announced that the mission was successfully completed once again. Ge Junjian was utterly shocked. He did not expect Yun Jian and the others to return so soon. When he kept the jade pendant, he looked at Yun Jian blankly and asked, "The mission is completed. What about the other 2 squads? They don't believe me, so they're still in country, eh?" Yun Jian said to Gu Junjian with narrowed eyes. After a beat, Gu Junjian pressed his lips together, unable to say anything in the end. At this moment, Gu Junjian was deeply aware of something. Whether it was Team Monarch's mission completion time last time or this time, it was telling Gu Junjian that Team Monarch had a bright future ahead of them. Yun Jian's future achievements were definitely not something a mere Special Forces team could hold back. Yu Fengqing and the rest, on the other hand, had searched for half a month in the Tiandi Grand Canyon and turned the entire country upside down, but they could not find any trace of Peter the Godly Thief. It was only when Gu Junjian sent someone to bring them back that he told them that Yun Jian had already brought the antique jade pendant back half a month ago. Yu Fengqing and the rest nearly vomited blood from anger. Chapter 390. Initially, she thought that Yun Jian and the rest would be away for at least 10 days to half a month, and they might not even be able to make it back for the new year. However, her daughter was home in less than 2 days. Naturally, Qin Yue breathed a sigh of relief. After all, going on a mission was risky. It was just the start of winter break, and there was still some time before the new year. The next evening, Qin Yue went to the mall to buy some New Year goods after work. Qin Yue had some savings now. Ever since she started working at New Cruise, the family was never short of money. Therefore, Qin Yue bought more when she went shopping for New Year's goods. "Mom, I won't be having dinner at home today. You don't have to prepare a bowl and chopsticks for me," Yun Jian told Qin Yue. She stood in front of the door, put on a pair of white shoes and wrapped a scarf around her neck, and turned to pull the door open. "I sure," Qin Yue agreed. Yun Jian pulled the door open, braving the bone-chilling wind outside, and walked out. Today, she wore a long down jacket that was long enough to cover her knees. She tied her hair into a high ponytail and wrapped the rest of her body in a scarf. Her lower body was a little simple. She only wore a pair of long johns, which was quite warm. After completing the mission yesterday to celebrate, Chu Xiangnan was the host. He invited all the members of Team Monarch and planned to treat them to dinner. After dinner, they even planned to go to karaoke. Their identity as Special Forces aside, Chu Xiangnan was actually a rich young master from a big family, and his family was extremely wealthy. Since he did not lack money since he was young, Chu Xiangnan was used to living a life of having everything taken care of. He was usually generous. In fact, Chu Xiangnan was the weakest in Team Monarch. As for why he was chosen, it was because Chu Xiangnan was forced into it by his father. He said that he wanted him to suffer in the army, so that he could change his arrogance. Before entering the Special Forces, Chu Xiangnan was a typical rebellious teenager. He hung out with a bunch of bad friends all day long, and often didn't return home at night. Therefore, in a fit of anger, Chu Xiangnan's father used his connections to get him into the Special Forces. He even told him that if he dared to go home without learning some skills, he would break his legs. It was Chu Xiangnan himself who told these things to everyone as if it was a joke. Yun Jian braved the cold wind and walked out of the house. She turned a few corners and came to the entrance of an alley. At the entrance of the alley, Chu Xiangnan and the others were already stomping their feet as they waited for Yun Jian. Seeing Yun Jian walking over, Chu Xiangnan quickly waved and said, "Yun Jian, you just came. Quick, quick, quick. Here, hurry up, I'm freezing." Yun Jian followed Chu Xiangnan and the others. "I'll treat you guys to a feast today. Hee hee." Chu Xiangnan blew on the warm air and said to Yun Jian and the others, "Don't give me that. What time is it? Hurry up, I'm starving." Chu Ning jumped up and slapped Chu Xiangnan's head. She ordered Chu Xiangnan in a domineering tone. Okay, let's go." Chu Xiangnan took the lead and led everyone to the location of the feast. Yun Jian walked at the back. She pursed her lips, and her delicate little face was already red from the cold. The feast that Chu Xiangnan mentioned was a newly opened hotel. It didn't have a star rating, but the prices of the food inside were very expensive. This hotel was opened by a foreign country, and the owner was a foreigner. Chu Xiangnan brought Yin Jian and the others into the hotel. The lights at the main entrance of the hotel flickered, and a huge chandelier hung above. There were guests at all the tables on the first floor, and it looked like all the tables had been booked. It looked like someone was holding a banquet. Therefore, Chu Xiangnan planned to lead Yin Jian and the others directly to the second floor. Chapter 391. When Yin Jian heard the familiar voice that she had not heard for a long time, she turned around abruptly and saw Mayor Gu's smiling, mature face. Yin Jian nodded. Mayor Gu was pleasantly surprised to see Yin Jian here. He glanced at Yin Jian before an equally surprised voice rang out. Uncle Gu. This shout came from Chu Xiangnan. At this moment, Chu Xiangnan was looking at Mayor Gu in shock. He was already standing at the top of the stairs, looking at Mayor Gu with his head tilted sideways in surprise. Mayor Gu glanced at Yin Jian before looking at Chu Xiangnan and the others behind Yin Jian. He asked Yin Jian, "Do you know each other?" "Yes. Uncle Gu, what are you doing here today?" Chu Xiangnan nodded to indicate that he indeed knew Yin Jian before he asked Mayor Gu a question. "I have a dinner appointment here, so I came over." Mayor Gu replied Chu Xiangnan in a friendly manner. Mayor Gu and Chu Xiangnan knew each other because Chu Xiangnan's father was Mayor Gu's sworn brother. "Xiangnan, I didn't expect you to know this little girl too. Haha, I don't want to boast, but it's your good fortune to be able to hang out with this little girl." Mayor Gu praised him deeply the moment he opened his mouth. When they heard Mayor Gu praising this little girl, the group of people who were busy flattering Mayor Gu turned to look at them. "You flatter me." Yin Jian was not shy in front of everyone. She merely narrowed her eyes slightly before she replied, "Little girl, I think you're here for dinner too, right? We still have an empty table here. If you don't mind, why don't you join us?" Mayor Gu looked at Yin Jian and the others and invited them over. Sure. Come, let's join us." Before Yin Jian and the others could say anything, Chu Xiangnan hurriedly pushed them over. Hence, the group of people gathered around a table of food and wine on the first floor and sat down one by one. It was actually a big boss who was treating Mayor Gu to this meal. Since the big boss had a favor to ask of him, Mayor Gu did not hold himself back and invited Yin Jian and the rest of them on his own accord. There were over 20 tables of food on the first floor. The big boss had invited them to dinner today because his daughter had given birth to a 1-year-old son. Using this as an excuse, the big boss invited all his relatives to dinner. At the same time, he did not forget to use this opportunity to build connections and invite Mayor Gu as well. As all the people present were relatives of the big boss, some of the big boss relatives were unhappy with the sudden addition of Yin Jian and the others at the same table. After Mayor Gu invited Yin Jian and the others to the dinner, he was busy dealing with the toasts from the various people. Yin Jian and the others sat around a table. The table next to them was filled with young boys and girls of the same age as Yin Jian and the others. It was probably arranged by the adults on purpose for the children to sit around a table by themselves. Ever since Yin Jian and the others sat down, the young boys and girls beside them kept sizing up Yin Jian and the others and whispering to each other from time to time. Finally, a boy of about 17 or 18 years old at the next table stood up and walked over to Yin Jian. "Hey, how old are you?" The boy walked over to Yin Jian and spoke to her in an arrogant tone. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes and ignored him. It was obvious that this boy was here to cause trouble. More importantly, she saw a familiar figure among the group of boys and girls at the table. It was a very familiar figure, because she had met her for the first time after her rebirth. Yin Jian still could not forget her. That person was Lin Mingyu. She was also the culprit who killed the original owner of this body. When Yin Jian walked over just now, she had already felt a burning gaze staring at her. She pretended not to see it. However, she had already noticed that the burning gaze that was sizing her up was avoiding her, not wanting her to notice her. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.